All right, guys. Well, good morning. Thank you for coming. If you guys don't know me, I am Holly Allen, the one you probably received the invitation from. I am my official title is Coordinator of Retention for Academic Success. So I am over the lovely tutors in the room. And then I also am on a coaching program that we are starting here that I can chat more with you guys about later. But I just wanted to say thanks for coming. We do have a bunch of people that couldn't make it because they're manning the desks, they have other jobs, that kind of thing. So we are recording it for that reason. We don't want to have to repeat the information 50 more times. So recording it and sending it out to everybody, and they'll get all the PowerPoints and everything. You guys will be emailed this PowerPoint later today. I was going to print it off, but it was going to cost me $300 to do so. So I decided that we'll just email it to you, so you'll have a copy of that. So you guys, did everybody get an agenda?
Yes. No.
Anybody not get one?
I did not.
Anybody else? Just one? Okay. Thanks. So we're going to try to stick to this day as much as possible. We have a bunch of speakers, as you can see, coming in. But please allow us some flexibility. We already have one person canceled for a medical reason. So we are all flexible, and you guys all know it's working here that we are flexible. So just keep that mindset. And then I also kind of wanted to explain why we're doing this, what we're going to be doing today, why we're calling it student leader orientation, that kind of thing. So we discovered, so Sarah Young and I, so some of you guys work for Sarah, she's actually the one that's out today. We both have a big group of student leaders, essentially is what you guys are, and we do our own trainings, and what happens is we make everybody come to 2 or 3 different departments. So we said, let's get everybody together in one room. That way you guys can all learn from each other as well, because you all work in different departments, and then we only have to ask people to come one time. So it makes it a little bit easier for that kind of reason. So I think, let me make sure I'm not missing any talking points. I do a PowerPoint to remind myself of things. Okay, yeah, I think this is just it. So I'll go over these in a second. So there are a couple logistical announcements. Everyone is getting paid for today, so whether you're ready to work, work, study, or just part-time, make sure you clock these hours. You will be paid for lunch, so do not take out your lunch. If you are working after today, and you are a federal work study or a ready-to-work student, you must take a 15-minute paid break, so don't go back to work for another 15 minutes. We're going to give you a couple breaks in here just to give you guys time to run to the bathroom, that kind of thing. But that is paid. Any questions about getting paid? Okay, and I've approved that with all your supervisors, but if you have questions, take it to them, because we all pay you differently. So a couple of rules that I came up with today. So stay engaged. So this is not just a boring training professional development session. This is for you guys to figure out how you can best serve your students. So if you are not engaged and we see you guys falling asleep, then we'll change it up and Ashley will blow out an activity, because that's her specialty.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, I didn't introduce Ashley. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Ashley Chambliss. I am the Coordinator of Retention for Student Engagement. I just started about 2 months ago, so I'm learning all of this with you guys. But like she said, we're trying to make this fun today and enjoyable, and not one of those long, boring trainings that you usually have to sit through. So if you're getting bored or need to stand up and stretch, feel free to do that.
So I will warn you, your morning sessions are a little more of the boring topics, but we did a lot more interactive stuff in the afternoon. We do that strategically because that pizza that we ate in the afternoon will put you to sleep with those carbs. And that's what we are getting for lunch. If you need something besides pizza, please make other arrangements. I apologize, I try to accommodate everybody, but you guys know how hard it is with dietary restrictions. So just telling you that now, we do have a half hour. If you need to leave for whatever reason, feel free to do so. We are going to be doing kind of an activity to get you paid for that lunch. So good morning, guys. So stay engaged. Write down questions you have for staff. So you guys can interject with questions, but if they're specific, if they're detailed, we're going to have a time for questions specifically because we know that it can get in the weeds, and we don't really have time built in for a long Q&A session. So you guys can ask really simple questions if you're confused about something, but if you have something specific or you know that a student has encountered something, write those down and we'll get to those on our breaks. Your goal today is to meet someone new. So I know that you guys all know each other from your departments that you work with, which is awesome. But we as a Gateway staff work as a team, and that's our goal. So I want my tutors to be able to go to the IC or our advising students or our peer mentors and work with each other. I don't want you to have to come through me and then me to go to them. We work as a team, so that's also our goal today. It's for you guys to get to know each other, get to know what your rules are, and be able to make a contact and say, I know who can answer that question for you. And get to know your support staff. So unfortunately, we started out with a lot of people that were supposed to help us today, and it's down to Ashley and I, so I apologize, you're gonna hear a lot from us. But we are going to explain who some of the people are. I may show you pictures of people that aren't here. But you're also going to get to hear from a lot of speakers. Get to know who they are, get to know their faces, because they are going to be your contact people for a lot of your questions from your students. So any questions about your day or what it's going to look like, or food or breaks or anything like that? Okay?
And if you need to use the bathroom and it's not like break time, feel free just to go.
And again, remember we are recording the session. Just another announcement in case you didn't hear me. So please walk out of the doors, not across the room. Okay? Hands up whenever you're ready.
All right.
You didn't send me anything, did you?
No.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm gonna have maybe one of you can just pass these out.
Yep.
So here's a little handout. So my name is Ann Schultz, and I am in the Student Records Office, Admissions and Records. So admissions, obviously, we're doing processing, helping students finish the admissions process, and records meaning, so we support like the functions of the registrar's office. And then at the end, when you are graduating and earning credentials, we're the people processing all of those things and getting all that together for the students. So admissions and records. So what I'm here to talk to you today about and how that ties to it is FERPA. So how FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, how that applies to the college and to the records department. Oh, I'm on camera.
You're on camera.
I'm back.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So, and really this will just be a few minutes. We're gonna go over some things. I would hope that you feel comfortable to ask a question. Just raise your hand, get my attention or something if you have a question. Before we begin, I liken FERPA to HIPAA because all of us have probably been to a doctor since they invoked the HIPAA laws. So this is very similar, except it is about your educational records, right? Not your medical records. So if, I call the doctor's office on my 20-plus-year-old children now, they're not going to talk to me unless they have said, you're allowed to tell my mom the details, which none of them have. So it's the same concept here, right? So it's your educational records. We don't share that information with anybody but the student unless somebody, the student, has given rights to somebody, meaning a parent, a spouse, a significant other, a child, rights to have that information. So we're just going to talk about what that means, and then how does a student here at the college give permission to somebody to have their records, okay, to be able to talk about. So, everything is a law in our world, and this is a law. So the first little part talks about the actual law, the FERPA law. What I think is important to understand is just like with the HIPAA. Really, it is a federal law. It's protecting the privacy and confidentiality of personally identifiable information contained within a student's records. Okay? The rest of that paragraph is a little extra stuff, but that is the basic premise. As we move down, there is a list of things that the college is allowed to release. Okay, so when does the college release stuff like this? Like to the National Student Clearinghouse, to the Department of Education, to the Department of Defense. The military is always wanting information, just very broad information about people that are registered for take classes. Okay, so we are allowed to provide information about who is enrolled, name, where they live, fields of study. We would give this information also like to CPE. That is a state legislative body that tracks what's happening in the state of Kentucky in education. So these are things we are allowed to release from you when a person applies to the college. There's a little statement on there about FERPA, and you're signing off with your application allowing us to do this. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't tell about your grades in your CIT class. It isn't telling about any maybe particular things that have happened on campus, awards you received, grades you have earned. It doesn't do anything like that. It's just basic biographical information. Okay? So along those same lines, who are we allowed to release information on? So I know you all are in different capacities, working in different capacities of college, but if you work in PeopleSoft, if you're in students' accounts ever, there is a page called Student Self-Service. So you all have that of your own, but when you have some staff views, you can see student self-service pages. If you were in that, and we're down to the bottom half of this page, there is, when you log into your own, you see that you have your academic information first. So that's like where your class schedule is. There's some tabs and action things you can do there, enrolling in classes, searching, using a planner. That's the first box. The second box is your financial aid information. It will have like a tuition bill calculated there. It'll have where you can click and go see your financial aid awards. That's the second box. The third box down is this box here called personal information. And on the left side, those highlighted or hyperlinked items are where you can go in and do stuff. So you, the student, or any student, can go in and take care of these actions. Myself or any other staff member here, we can't go in and do this for the student. These are all student-initiated functions. So they can do something called consent to release. So when they do that, it opens up a screen that allows them, this is our bottom picture here, to put information about who is allowed to get information about the student. So this is an example, and I blocked out all the real details, but you can see that this student allowed their spouse. You can see from that drop-down box that they chose their spouse. They put the spouse's name in here, and then the relationship is the spouse, and that person is going to be allowed to have information about the boxes the student checked in this screen. So this student A, their spouse, gets to know about their student account, their financial aid, and their academic records. Okay? I will caution you that if you have someone calling you to talk about it, maybe they're somebody's mother, somebody's spouse, somebody's daughter, whatever, calling to talk to you about something going on at the college, this is the first thing you check. If it's not in there, you don't talk to them. You can tell them there's a way for the student to give access, but if it's not in there, you don't talk to them. Then this code, down here on the screen, there's something called the security code word. That person needs to know the word. So the student made up the word. So the word could be a pet's name. You know, I have a dog named Ginger, so maybe my word would be Ginger, because my whole family would know that. So if something happened to me and they needed to contact the college to tell me, because sometimes you'd be surprised at things that happen and people call to tell us about injuries, accidents, moves out of town, deployed it to the military, all kinds of things. And they want us to do some things on behalf of their family member. So we need this taken care of before we can talk to them about anything or do any actions on their student's behalf. Okay? So just, did anyone have any questions before I go on? Okay. So really, what you want to know about FERPA is what you can release, what you cannot release. Okay? And then how we get this in PeopleSoft, because there are situations where we do need to speak to family members about a student. So we record it that way. Okay? Now, what questions do you have about FERPA?
I do have a question. When Joey's mom called to ask to set up a placement test for her son, and she asked a question regarding something along that line, am I able to answer that?
So is the question beyond the details of the test day?
A lot of parents do call to set up tests for their kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, are they able to ask a question pertaining to like the test day, or what happens after the test?
Yes, that's just a process. That's not about Joey. Everybody's process is the same. Yeah.
I just, I know that every single time that I check someone's like info, I can see that they have a consent to release form, but I can't actually see who's on there. Like Emily or Liz are the only ones that really have access to that.
Oh, okay. So as a student worker view, you do not have access to see it.
So,
Okay.
like if they're like gone from the desk, I'm like, oh, hold on, I have to wait for someone to say that you're actually on the list and I can talk to you.
Yeah, that might be the case then, if you're the student worker access. Let me ask you this. So someone calls you on the phone and says, hey, this is Ann Schultz, and I do not know my ID number. Can you tell me? Are you allowed to do that? Anybody think you are?
Because you have to
Anybody
verify.
want to? Like I want to all the time, because it's not easy for them to find this information. What were you gonna say?
Because you have to verify that it's actually them.
Yeah. That's what I was getting to, yeah. So how would you do that? Tell me how you, so she says we're gonna verify that it truly is Ann Schultz on the phone. So how are you
I'll
gonna do
just
that?
start going on a list, like what's your address, maybe what classes are you taking, or just
Date of birth.
Yeah, date of birth.
So in the database, when we are doing
Last
something
four
called
socials.
search matching, because like I'm Ann Schultz and in the system, you know how we all have our ID numbers, A, S, you know, your first initial, last name, and a series of number. 10 years ago when I started working here, A, S, C, H, U, L, T, Z, I'm number 9. So there were already 9 with very similar names to mine. So when we do search match, and I'm looking at Camille because she works in my area where we have admissions and documents coming in and we have to find names to the database, we always check their date of birth. Some pages, which not everybody will have access to, will show you last 4 digits of a SOC, but not everybody here will have access to those. Address, middle names, date of birth. You know, if you can get, I like to get about 3 things I can get out of them to verify that it is truly them. And then I can say, oh sure, your ID number is 0012345677. You know, whatever their ID number is. If you were sending something electronic, are you allowed to send them their ID number? Are you allowed to send that to Gmail? Someone's Gmail account? Well, you can. However, anything that gets sent out like that can only have one piece of identifying data. So I can't reply back, oh, hi, Ann Schultz, date of birth, January 1st, 2020. Here's your ID number, because now I've given you name, date of birth, and ID number in one email. That can't be. But if you have one piece of information, because our students need their ID numbers. I mean, come on, that's how you get your application in there, you get your ID number, you start making your student profile, your user profile. You don't have that, which the system gives it to you, but not nicely. You have like a 3-step email, and it frustrates people. So yeah, we can share their ID numbers. We do that in admissions and records sometimes, but we never share more than one piece of identifying data in an email, especially when it goes to a Gmail, Ymail, like out of our KCTCS server control email. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Did you come across?
Would it matter if the student is a minor for the law?
No. No, because our dual credit students, okay, so dual credit is a group of students that come here that are like 16 and they're still in high school, and maybe their program and their test score allow them to come here and take English 101 their senior year, let's say. They are under 18, but we are not to release information about them. So sometimes you get in a sticky wicket about that because parents are saying to you, come on, pay his bill. I'm his parent, I get to know what he gets in English. You really kind of don't. I mean, I wouldn't say that straight up to them. I just say, well, they're protected under the FERPA law. But oftentimes I send them where they need back to the dual credit people. Like when it gets really sticky, Shelby and Christelle can take care of that for you. They have some additional security releases because they work with the high school, so they're sharing information with the high school. They're sharing it and then back with the parents through that channel. So dual credit is not so clean in some of the rules. So I always default by going back to the dual credit team, Shelby Gans and Chris South. So let's say you're working with the Information Commons and you have no idea who the dual credit team is. Put that in the search bar, dual credit. He'll take you to the page on the website all about it. And then you can get their names and how to contact them. Okay. Good question. What else? Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's it for me then. Anything? Do you have anything for me? You or Holly have any questions? No. All right. Well, very good. Well, have a good day. This is a nice opportunity for all of us. This is nice that you get to be together as a group to do some training. So enjoy your day.
Thanks, Ann.
You're welcome.
All right. So next up, we have our other fun legal thing. Stand in front of the camera because I told her. She's over there. She's going to talk to us about Title IX, any judicial things that come up.
How are y'all this morning? Great. Well, we are excited that you all are together and learning about all this good stuff. Am I on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. One of my favorite things, being recorded, right? So this is not, I'm not here to talk to you about FERPA.
Oh, sorry, I'm moving it.
That's okay.
I'm coming.
That's all right. So I'm going to talk to you about Title IX. How many of you are aware of Title IX and what that, okay, few, some, yeah, okay, good. All right. So this is a kind of long presentation, but I'm not going to go through all these slides, mainly just because it's not necessary. You all can kind of look at them, but basically what I want to do this morning is to tell you what Title IX is, and I want you to kind of have an idea of what Title IX looks like at Gateway, and then basically what you need to do, okay? So Title IX basically is, it's part of the Education Amendment Act of 1972. It's a federal civil rights law. And basically what it says is that we cannot discriminate on the basis of sex, being gender, in college programs and activities, okay? All colleges that receive funding, public funding, you know, state government funding, so like federal financial aid, have to abide by this law, okay? And so your private institutions, they are a little bit different, but just know that we abide by this law, and if any of you are eventually going to be transferring on to a public university, they will have to abide by this law as well. And so basically, there's a lot of parts of Title IX, but generally what we see here at Gateway, and what you might hear more about in regards to Title IX, is Title IX is going to cover sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, which includes domestic violence, stalking, partner violence, and sexual assault, okay? There's also another part of Title IX that at Gateway we see a lot too, which includes pregnancy and parenting, okay? So, so let me tell you just a little bit more about, yeah, hold on, just go back real fast. Oh, just start right there, that's fine. So I'm just going to go, I'll refer back to some of these slides as I talk about them. But so with pregnancy and parenting, basically what the law says is that for students that are pregnant and maybe having complications to their pregnancy, or maybe delivering during a semester, or maybe breastfeeding after they return, or recovering from delivery, those kind of things, that we have to make certain accommodations for them. And so the main accommodations that are kind of spelled out are, one, we can't penalize them from not being in class or participating in an online class during a certain time period. Second, that we have to give them reasonable amount of time for them to make up missed work, okay? During that time period. And I keep saying during that time period. So basically we do require documentation for this this piece of Title IX, and generally the student will work with their doctor and they will say, okay, you know, I'm having complications, so I'm on bed rest, for example. So the doctor would send me a note, and well, the student gets the note from the doctor sends me the note. And it basically gives me a time period of when this is happening. And typically if you're having a complication with pregnancy, it's a lot of times, sometimes they're intermittent, but other times it might be, okay, it's from a certain point until you deliver, you know. So it could be a rather long time. With delivery, students are able to take up to 6 weeks for recovery. And again, that's kind of doctor and student kind of driven. And we, generally the accommodation would be applied toward there, but we get that documentation. So with parenting, parenting is around when you're parenting sick children, okay? And this is for, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, basically it applies to both. I mean, obviously with pregnancy, you can see that that's more of, you know, a female kind of thing, because at this point in time, men aren't getting pregnant. Who knows what will happen in the future, right? So, so basically, with parenting, it is when your child is sick and they have to go to the doctor, or they've been hospitalized and you know, obviously are in the hospital with them, or they have certain therapy appointments that basically it's beyond your control to, you know, when those are scheduled at times. So basically, again, with documentation, then I'm able to ask for those same kind of accommodations in a sense that you're not penalized for not being in class, and that you, if something was due that day, or if you had a test or something like that, that then you have a reasonable amount of time to make that up, okay? So those are kind of the things around parenting and pregnancy. With the sexual harassment piece, those same kind of accommodations can be made, but it's a little bit more, based on, you know, what the individual needs. So I'm gonna just disregard that. So basically, when a student is experiencing any one of the sexual harassments or any one of the things that I mentioned in sexual misconduct, we generally have an obligation to provide support services for that student, which means, you know, counseling or connect them to community things, or they may need certain accommodations like I just mentioned. The other thing that we have to do is that if there are two students that are involved, so if basically, you know, there is a case where a student is saying, you know, this other student sexually harassed me, that kind of stuff, we have to have a means to where the students can come forward, and if they would like to go further with a charge or with a complaint, they basically then can file a complaint with us, and we can have an investigation and all that kind of stuff, and kind of deem, have some kind of finding that is more or less, you know, then we're able to apply sanctions or, you know, that kind of stuff. So we do have a process for that. That is produced by KCTCS, and it's a policy that we have. It's on our website, and that was kind of that very first thing, or not first, but you know, that second slide. So really, it's a lot of information, but what it comes down to is this. What I need you guys to do is, if you are with students, you hear students talking about, or they come up to you in the information comments and they say, I need to drop a class because I'm pregnant, or I need to drop a class because I missed too many classes because my kid was sick. I need you to be aware of those kind of things, or they come to you and say, you know, or you know, they may disclose, you know, who knows that, you know, they're in a domestic violence situation, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, some of you will be working with students in a more personal manner, so they might disclose that. I need you to just at that point let me know about it, because then I will give them their rights. I will email them, I'll give them the rights, we'll start the dialogue, we'll see what they might need, and then from there, you know, I'll take it. And so basically, it's just more or less knowing that, you know, knowing what kind of is included in Title IX, and then knowing who to contact. And you can just have a conversation, like what the thing that you're talking about, you know, sounds like it's Title IX to me, and I really want to get you connected to our Title IX coordinator, because there's accommodations and support and that kind of thing. So, you know, and then you just send me an email. And then what I do is I'll, you know, email them back and whatnot. Okay? So it's not cut and dry, but generally speaking, I mean, I just want you guys to know that these are kind of what is covered under Title IX, what we see at Gateway. Primarily, those are kind of the incidences that we see at Gateway. There's a lot of other parts of Title IX that, you know, other institutions may experience because they have residential life and Greek life and all that kind of stuff, so, or resident halls. But that's not the case here, so that's it. Yeah?
Question.
Sure.
So, in a situation where a student comes to another student,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they are expressing one of these issues with Title IX, as a friend,
Mm-hmm.
you would first, you know, console and try to figure out what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or should you, protocol tells you to first direct them to you, or direct
Yeah.
them to counseling, or what?
So basically what, when you're a student and you're kind of dealing with, that's a great question, when you're a student and dealing with these things with a fellow student, you know, you really, when they're telling you, I would kind of think about, okay, how would I handle this if I was, you know, if it was a friend telling me this, and I'd listen to them. You may just kind of be empathetic, you know, you don't really have to say a lot other than kind of listening and whatnot, and then just saying basically, I know that what you're saying kind of sounds like it's a Title IX and a Title IX situation, and you have rights around this, and basically I'm going to connect you with our Title IX coordinator. And then from there, I can spell out all the things and all the person's rights, various accommodations that can be made, as well as support services and all of that. So it's not to say that like if they're disclosing stuff to you, if they're saying stuff to you, that you have to like immediately shut it down, like I can't hear this kind of thing. That's not the case.
It's not like a FERPA situation, like
No.
they're disclosing some sensitive information to me that are clearly like personal, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in the same situation, you know.
Yes, it's not like FERPA in a sense that, I mean, it's personal, and so you want to take that information, and you don't want to share it, or you don't want to share it because it is personal, it's private. But we don't have what's called confidentiality, privileged communications here at Gateway, in a sense that you guys don't have that. So something that a student says to you, you aren't bound by the rules of confidentiality to not pass that along. So I think that you can let them know that, because one thing that may come up, which is when you say, oh, I'd like to, let the Title IX coordinator know, or I'm going to pass this information along so you can get the services and support that you need. You might get a student saying, oh, I don't want you to, to do this, and just say, at that point in time, you can let them know that, this is what the Title IX coordinator does. She will keep things private. She's not going to disclose this information to a lot of people. She's just here to really be an advocate for the student and to get them the support that they need. And many times, I think when you're dealing with students that are dealing more with the sexual assault piece of it and the domestic violence, sexual harassment, that will be what, not that will be the response that you get, but that could be the response that you get. With the pregnancy and parenting, many times they're like, oh, great, I didn't know that this existed, kind of thing, So I just think that you have to, just re-encourage the student that, that it's okay that this person know they're going to keep it private, and they're just going to give you support. That's really, and then really whatever the student decides to do is up to the student. Like, I am not going to force the student to take the support. That's not my role. My role is to basically say, we are here for you, you have rights, and let me offer you these things, and then you need to let me know how you want to proceed. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. You had a question?
I was gonna say also, you guys can always refer them to peer mentors for counseling services as well. And they can kind of be the middleman if you all don't feel comfortable going to police or Title IX or anything. We're always open to have that conversation with students. And
Are you talking about just for?
just a random, yeah, well, we all are mostly student workers, so.
Yeah.
They're more than welcome to email us, and we can pass the message along, just if they don't feel comfortable or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, by under the law, like I need to document things.
Right.
So I definitely need to know if a Title IX situation is happening. A lot of times, once I know, some of the resources that I send out is counseling, for example, and community resource stuff. So I think that. I think peer mentors can definitely help in the situation, but you still would definitely want to get me involved. Okay. Yeah.
So the maternity leave and all that stuff. What happens for a student, it's a guy and his wife's having a baby and he feels like I need to drop this class because my wife's about to have a baby and I didn't think about that ahead of time. What happens in this? Like, do I recommend this? What is available to him?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I will say that I don't necessarily agree under the law at this point in time, but we basically are going by the law. And so because when you even look at the pregnancy part of it, it's all about like somebody experiencing almost like a medical condition. So it's all around that. So with a partner or a husband, that their wife or significant other is having a child, I would recommend that you still connect him to me, because many times I will let them know, okay, this is the situation. And I really strongly encourage that you talk to your instructor first, because many times instructors are willing to work with male students that are in the situation to give them a little bit of time or a little bit of flexibility. But the law doesn't require it, because it's all about like the medical recovery or the medical necessity to be off of school and that kind of thing.
This scenario happened this summer and I was so new, I didn't know like anything like.
Yeah. No. And I have had that happen, you know, and I basically, you know, let them know, please, you know, do this.
Right.
One other thing that I didn't mention, and that's around, when you think of pregnancy, it's the whole gamut. So it's also miscarriage, or, you know, somebody who elects to terminate a pregnancy. All of that is covered, you know, in a sense of like it's a medical procedure and there may be time for recovery, that kind of stuff. And so I've had also like loss of loss of pregnancy, and in those situations, many times it's, you know, again, if there's a partner or a husband involved, you know, it is the two of them experiencing this. I mean, I've had some where there was a stillborn, for example, and so there was a funeral and all of that. And so, you know, our instructors are great. I mean, I'm not going to give instructors, I don't give any of the instructors when I make when I'm asking instructors to make accommodations, specifics about what's going on in the student's life. I basically say it's a Title IX situation and this is the accommodation that needs to be made. Their story is not my story to tell, you know, so they have to do that themselves. And if they would like me to disclose certain things, then I will, but I do not, that's not my practice in general. You know, they would have to say, can you let them know what's going on? So that's a great question, and so I would still always like refer them to me, and that's fine, and I can basically kind of let them know, but I can also encourage them and you know, even help them contact their instructors, you know, even by just kind of, so they know that there is like, there's a legitimacy to, like they contacted Title IX and, you know, they are dealing with this kind of thing. So yeah, that's a great question. Yeah?
Last question. Does Title IX also deal with mental health issues like depression, anxiety, things like that?
Yes, so it deals with depression and anxiety and those kind of things for parenting. So if the child has those kind of things and they have certain appointments, therapy appointments, you know, whether they're you know, therapy counseling appointments, physical therapy appointments, you know, all of that, yes, that's covered. With pregnancy piece, you know, if those kind of things are possibly a medical issue or concern that for their pregnancy, then, you know, that could be worked in there. It's not necessarily okay, they have these things, and yes, it definitely qualifies for them for Title IX. It's more, we have to kind of tease out like, okay, well, what is the issue compromising their pregnancy? And then it could be. If not, you know, you have disability services. If a student is not pregnant or they're not parenting a child that's dealing with that, then you have disability services that they can get documentation and get accommodations for having anxiety, depression, you know. But that being said, I have had situations where it's like postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. And, you know, they're dealing with that, and that would be covered under Title IX. It's basically a medical condition that is a result of being pregnant, you know. So that's a great question. So there's all these little nuances, you know. Also, when you think about sexual misconduct and whatnot, yes, so like anxiety, depression, PTSD, those things could be a result of, you know, an assault or a stalking or domestic violence. And again, I would have to get documentation for that, but yeah, it's possible that that could also be covered under Title IX. It also may be something that we work with disability services with as well to get accommodations, because we kind of will work together on some of these things. But that's a great question. Yeah.
I had two questions actually, and I think you pretty well addressed one of them. So if a student has, because I had a student last year who had like rheumatoid arthritis or something like that, and she was having trouble getting to class, and she was like really young, like maybe 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So from what I'm understanding, she would be referred to disability services, not Title IX, because it's not a pregnancy-related thing?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Not pregnancy or parenting, or not sexual misconduct stuff or sexual, you know, harassment. So your
question was, when if a student came to us with like an assault or a stalking sort of situation like that, I thought we were mandated reporters of that. So like if we hear something like that, we automatically had to go report that to you. And that's a little tricky there.
Yeah, it is tricky because, so here's the thing. So there is a thing called responsible employees, okay? Responsible employees is noted in the law, it's noted in our policy and procedure. And generally, it's up to the institution to designate who is responsible employees. So, that being said though, a lot of times it is also the perception of the student, okay, who's disclosing. So a responsible employee, a lot of times, so faculty are responsible employees, many of the staff are responsible employees. Also, like if you think of people that supervise other people, they're responsible employees, okay? So in some institutions, you know, for example, like the maintenance staff, they're not necessarily responsible employees. Well, Patrick was here earlier. He's not necessarily a responsible employee, where he would have to disclose to me. Generally here at Gateway, I mean, we've done enough training where if all staff, employees are gonna, if they hear about something, they kind of know to come to me and at least, you know, tell me about it. Or talk to their supervisor and their supervisor refers them to me. So, so we've designated some people as responsible employees, but also within that, there is a perception from the student. If the student is telling someone and they have a reasonable expectation that that student is going to act on it or has the authority to act on it, then you kind of become a responsible employee, you know. So is it that a student telling a student, you know, like you're a coach or a mentor or, you know, a tutor, would they have an expectation that you would say something to someone else? Maybe some would, and maybe some wouldn't. But regardless, you know, it's a good practice to at least, I mean, you're hearing me, so it's good for you to let me know if you hear it. But if you're like, I don't know if I should or not, in a sense of, they said this, but I don't know, you can always talk to your supervisor about it, and then let them make the decision, you know, in a sense where if you're kind of unsure, you know. You're always feel free to reach out to me, that's fine. But if you're kind of, you know, like, not sure what to do with this one, then your supervisor would be a good place to start. Does that answer your question? It gets a little bit, it's not, you know, with everything in the law, nothing is necessarily clear cut. So, and there's always this kind of room for interpretation. So I think if they didn't have that piece in there that said the student kind of disclosing, you know, has that kind of expectation that someone else is going to do something about it, then it might be a little bit more clear. So if that wasn't there, then probably you guys wouldn't necessarily need to disclose, but we do want to connect students, you know, to the resources and let them know their rights to help them be successful. So, you know, all of these things are not to force them to do anything that they don't want to do. It's more or less just to protect them. And so, you know, things can be set up, put in place so they can be successful. I will say this with Title IX accommodations, and Holly, is Dana going to talk at all about disability services?
Stacey is.
Hi.
Oh, Stacey is. Oh, great, perfect.
Yep,
So Stacey's going to do that, which is awesome. But we can make Title IX accommodations retroactively. So let's say you're working with a student and they're working with you, and you know, as you develop a relationship with them, they say, oh, last semester, you know, I delivered my baby and that's why I really did poorly, and you know, and you can even ask them, well, were you connected, you know, to the Title IX coordinator? And if they say no, then you say, well, let me give you her information, because now they have probably a newborn or whatever that they're parenting, and kids get sick. So, you know, it's good to still connect, but I can't go back and retroactively, you know, change the grades or do that kind of thing that a student may already have in classes. So just be aware of that. So that's why it's really important that when you guys know about something, that then you let me know so I can get them connected, because then it becomes like it's an opportunity for them to, you know, to do accommodations or, you know, get support. Versus like something that they wish they would have known earlier. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
So I'm just going to show you guys the website.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So you guys know our search tool works really well. So if you don't remember how to get there, which I'm about to show you. Just type in Title IX. It is Roman numeral, so you can just type in title and it's the first thing that comes up. But if you're on the current student page, it's under our last little tab here, student life. And then if you look over to the left, it's listed right here. Now it's really small. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Oh, not Arts and Culture Club. It's right over here to the left, Title IX. And Melissa's email is right there, or phone number.
Yes. And if you have questions that come up, please feel free to email me. Or let's say you've worked with a student in the past and you were like, oh, would this have been Title IX? You know, please, that's fine. And even if you're not sure, email me. I'm good with that. I get a lot of, and Stacy may talk about temporary medical disability or situations. I get a lot of questions like just what you had about the rheumatoid arthritis, you know, a student who was dealing with that. You know, oh, they have this going on, and it's like, okay, well, that's not Title IX, but let me get them connected to disability services. Disability services and I work very closely. So anyway, so really, I am very thankful for you all. I'm really excited about all the work that you guys have done in the past and are going to be continuing to do this semester and in the future for our students. So thank you. I love the other side.
Alright, you guys are gonna get a break. I just want to make one comment because Courtney brought up a good point about mandated reporting. That specifically talks about suicidal, homicidal, or abuse to elderly and children. So if you guys have questions about mandated reporting of Title IX versus this, they're a little bit different. But clarify that with your supervisor because you guys all have different rules. So, okay, we have a 5-minute break. Alright guys, I'm gonna get started just so we can stay on track. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you briefly, and then we have 2 more guest speakers with us today. So when we were talking about what did we want to review with you guys, and what did we want to include in this training, I wanted to include a small piece about chain of command, specifically because I've encountered a lot of students while I've been here and at my previous school that are really mad about something, so they're going to contact Dr. Figueroa or President Box or, you know, the higher-ups that really have nothing to do with their problem. So I'm going to give you guys a little spiel on chain of command. So you guys has everyone heard of that before, that concept? Okay, I'm getting lots of head nods. So really the whole concept of chain of command is, you know, somebody's up here and I'm down here somewhere in this. And I was going to show you guys the organizational charts that we have for Gateway, but there's a lot of them, there's 6 of them. They're online if you're interested and you want to go check them out. Feel free, but it kind of tells you where your department is under the chain of command and that kind of thing. And I don't bring this up to say stay in your place at all, but a lot of times students, not always mad, glad, one way or the other, they just tell the wrong person about it and then it gets to the wrong person and then there's a big deal about nothing. And so this is something that you guys can help your students do. So you know where you are and you know where your supervisor is and kind of who goes up from there. So make sure you know kind of where your department is, and if that student has an issue, I'm going to give you some examples and that'll make a little more sense. Make sure you're taking it to the person in the right department. Actually, can you on the side, sir? Yeah. Thanks. I don't want to have to keep walking over there. So, like an example that I had, which Rick will remember, I had a student that was really mad about our new math curriculum. So if you guys don't know, our math curriculum is changing. So where they're including statistics in the math. And they were really mad and said, well, I'm not happy with this, I'm going to go talk to Dr. Figueroa. Well, if you guys know anything about curriculum, he has nothing to do with curriculum. It's a state thing. The Board of Education says we're trying to save students money. We don't want them to have to take 3 classes. I want them to take 1. So it's actually a cool thing for them. But it does make it a little harder because you have to take statistics and algebra together, right? So that's just one example. So I spent a while explaining, if you have an issue, let's go to the dean, who then can talk to the systems office, and then if you really want to, we can write your congressman. So I'm just kind of explaining that whole chain of command. And then I had a student come to me that was really upset about a fundraiser we were doing. I have nothing to do with fundraising. We have a whole development chapter that's part of an organizational chart. And they were going to go to, I think, Ann Schultz, who was here earlier. She has nothing to do with that. So granted, we will hear them out. You guys all know we will hear everybody out. We are pretty empathetic and nice people here. But especially for my ICers in the room, help students direct them to the correct place to go to. So we have people that work in the development division, and you can find them online. And okay, if you have a complaint, let me send you to that person. Because you can talk to me all day about fundraising, but I have no idea about the fundraisers we're doing. So you can go one more. So I kind of laid this out, like what do I want you guys to know? And I laid out 3 things. So first thing, especially now that you guys are meeting each other today, go to your other student leaders first. So if you have if an IC student has, or if an IC worker, has a student that comes in that's really mad or just has a question or anything about like tutoring, go to another tutor. I love when you come to me, but I'm just gonna send them right back to that tutor. Or if you have a question about, I think what other student workers we have in here. Advising. There are plenty of student worker advisors. You can send them to an advisor, absolutely, but that student is gonna be a great first contact because they know the inner workings of everything going on. If you have a question about our new success coaching program, Sophia's the only one in here, so you go to Sophia for that. So that kind of thing. So make sure you get to know your student workers, know who each other are, know what your departments are. And then go to their program coordinator. So like disability services, they don't have a student worker, just go to them for that. But kind of know, again, who the faces are that are coming to talk to you today. And get familiar with who owns kind of what project. So if it's a club or organization, Ashley will have student ambassadors, but for now, they go to her. So know who's in charge of what, and if you don't know, ask the IC people. They're always great at knowing who owns what. And then lastly, if you have a problem like with another coworker within your department, or if a student is enraged by something and I don't want to send them to my friend over here in tutoring because they're really mad, send them to their supervisor. Come talk to me. I love to talk to math students. They're my favorite people. So send them to their supervisor. Just be nice about it. Be smart. That's really all I can say. I was going to give you a couple more examples, but I'm blanking. So any questions about kind of who you go to or where you should go when you have a problem or an issue? Okay, so we're going to send students to the right place every time, right? Okay. All right, that's really all I have to say about that. So now I'm Stacy. Yeah, so I apologize, Dana is on your schedule. I wrote this a while ago. I forgot to take Stacy's name off, but she'll introduce her. And Stacy, make sure you stand in this empty space because you're being recorded. Yeah, sorry. Right there.
Oh, okay. I don't like that, but anyway. I'm Stacy DeLapp, and I work in disability services. Dana Franksman is our director. She is our other employee in that department. So when you're referring students to us, you can IM or email either of us to get someone in disability services. Yeah?
Can you spell your last name?
DELAP. Yeah, it's a weird one. I went from a really easy one, and then I got married. It was a hard one. All right. So our department provides accommodations for students in the classroom. So that can include things like, for example, extra time on tests, or maybe help with note-taking, extra time on assignments, help with attendance issues, and those can be given for a wide range of diagnoses. A lot of students think that you have to have a learning disability or you have to have a physical disability to use our services, but a lot of students also come to us with psychological diagnoses as well. I think that's something a lot of students don't know, is that if you have a diagnosis of anxiety or depression or PTSD or anything like that, we can also provide assistance to you. So sorry, I'm like off of the slide. So in order for us to meet with a student, they must have a class schedule. If a student comes to us and they're not registered for classes, we can't really put anything in place for them until we know who their teachers are and who we need to send their accommodations to. So if we have a student asking about accommodations, make sure that they have a schedule first before you send them to us. Not all accommodations fit every student. It's really going to be dependent on us sitting down with the student, having a conversation with them, and deciding what accommodations would work best for them and for the diagnosis that they have. In order to get accommodations, they will need to provide documentation to us. And in a lot of cases, that can be an IEP from high school. Do you guys know what an IEP is? Yeah. Most of you? Okay, so that's what a lot of students tend to provide if they've come right out of high school. For some of our more adult students that aren't right out of high school, they might need to provide something that's about any less than 3 years old. So if you've been out of high school for a while, an IEP is probably not going to work since it's going to be older than 3 years. In that case, students can provide maybe like a psychological report from their psychologist's office or some doctor's documentation, or there's a wide variety of things, but we need to kind of look over the documentation they have and make sure that it's going to work for our purposes. Some students will try to provide like a short 2-sentence letter from their doctor, and typically that's not going to work for us. It needs to be a little bit more in depth and kind of explain what their diagnosis is and how it's affecting them in school. So if you see something really short that a student's saying, I need to give this to disability services, You might wanna say, hey, they might need something a little more than this. You don't have to go into detail because that's kind of what we do, but maybe give them a heads up that, do you have anything else you can provide them, or, you know. So it has to be some in-depth documentation, could be an IEP, could be from a doctor. We do have a form as well, so if a student says, I want assistance with this, but I don't have anything like that, you can send them to us and we'll give them a blank form that they can take to their doctor or psychologist to fill out. Let's see. So everything that students discuss with our office is confidential. Even in the classroom, nobody else is gonna know that they have accommodations, so if they're worried about that, they don't need to be worried. Everything they talk about with us and everything we decide on is confidential. Students do need to self-identify with us. What that means is that you cannot ask them if they have a disability. So if they're not really telling you right out and you're thinking something's going on, you can't ask them out, hey, do you have this diagnosis, or did you have an IEP? They have to tell you that they have that for you to refer them to us. That breaks confidentiality for you to ask them what's going on or if they have those things. Unless they tell you, then they won't be referred to us. You can refer students to us, but they need to disclose to you first that they have a diagnosis, or they have an IEP, or they have paperwork that talks about their diagnosis. So Melise, I guess I walked in at the right time before, she was talking to you guys a little bit about, she mentioned temporary accommodations. So we can provide accommodations for medical diagnoses that might be really short term, like a broken arm or a student can't write or something along those lines. But if it's pregnancy related, it always goes to Melise for Title IX. Don't refer students to us if they're pregnant. We can't provide accommodations for that. That's through Melise. But anything else medically related besides pregnancy, we can do temporary accommodations too. They're just short term. Everything else though, long term accommodations would last the entire time that the student is at Gateway with us. Let's see. So Dana Franksman or me, Stacy DeLapp, you can IM us, you can email us. We also have a general disability email and phone number. If you want to send something to that as well or call that number, we can get in touch with you on that too. It's probably easiest to just send us an IM if you're working somewhere and you have a computer access, just IM us and we'll get the student the assistance that they need, or send an email. But we do have a phone number, you can call us as well, it's just easier, email and IM. You guys have any questions? Yeah?
I have a question. So, should the student come to you before classes start, like as?
Yes. So, sometimes students will get a schedule at the very last minute, and that's fine. They can come to us when classes have started, but we do recommend they come before classes start. So they've got their schedule 2 months before classes start. Go ahead and make that appointment. Go ahead and set up things with us so we can have them in the system, get everything sent to their teachers, and get all of that done for them ahead of time.
So what about, so you said you only work with people who have a diagnosis?
Correct.
So what if you're a person who realizes that you have test anxiety, or you don't do well under pressure, or whatever it may be, like it's getting close to the end of the term and you're just kind of freaking out, stressing out, you know what I'm saying? Deadlines, yada yada yada. Do you? I already know. I keep coming to her all the time. But I'm just saying.
No, it's a good question.
On a level like someone would have to come through you all in order to have, like, say, go through a process of an eye contract, you know what I'm saying, of a teacher, like, if you're having a problem in class and your teacher says, well, reach out to this disability services so that we can come to grips, you know what I'm saying, like.
Yeah, and teachers do sometimes refer without knowing whether or not, I guess, there is a diagnosis for sure. Unfortunately, you have to have a diagnosis and documentation for us to give accommodations. So sometimes we'll have students come to us and say, I think I have test anxiety. And in that case, we can refer them to maybe somewhere that can test them for that and then get them diagnosed. But they do need to have that diagnosis in order to use our services. So if you have a student that's saying things like that, you can refer them to us still, and we might be able to give them some resources to meet with someone outside of campus to get a diagnosis. But in order to get accommodations, they have to have a diagnosis. Does that answer your question? Sort of?
Well, I can follow up and kind of piggyback because we work pretty hand in hand together. So I will say, testing anxiety is like the new big thing because we're finding that this generation is the most anxious generation in the world. And so it does happen that we all have testing anxiety, I've said it before. And so something that we do as a tutoring and coaching staff is to help you prepare and to help you walk through those kind of things. So even if they aren't diagnosed, our tutors have been through it. They're high-performing students that always get anxious at tests. You can ask them. And so even if they don't have that, we do have support services. This may not be the official accommodations.
And that might be something, if you're thinking you have test anxiety, it may not be that you need to have a diagnosis of anxiety. It may be that there's some other resources in tutoring that can help you, and you don't need our accommodations. Or maybe you need us and not them. It just depends. But I mean, if we give you some resources outside of campus, you know, a professional will tell you if you have an anxiety diagnosis or not. They're going to test you and diagnose you. Yeah.
I know you're talking about like documentation. If there was like previous records of the 504 plan, could that be used?
Yeah, 504 too. I say IEP because that's what we see most often, but 504s will work as well.
Okay.
Somebody else? Yeah.
I know, like, as peer mentors, when we're referring to Ready to Work, they like us to send the student straight to their office. Will that work as well instead of IME? Like, can we bring them straight by your office?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on if we're there or not.
Yeah,
so
I didn't
you might
know,
want
like,
to check
you all
first,
always
but yeah,
talk.
you can.
Okay.
I guess I should mention, Dana spends her time here at Edgewood most of the week. Sometimes she'll go to Boone, but usually we just go to Boone. We do have an office there, but usually it's just for if we have to meet a student there, they've already made an appointment. So Dana works here at Edgewood. I do 2 days a week at Edgewood and 3 days a week at the Thai building. So if someone needs assistance at Thai, you can send them to me in my office there. I'm just back in the suite where all the cubicles and stuff are. So, did someone else have?
Show them on the website.
Oh yeah, Dana told me to mention it. We just set up an application on the website that you can refer students to if they're wanting assistance. So maybe we're not in the office and we're not answering or something. They can fill out this application on our website and it will go directly to us, and then we can contact them and set up an appointment. So if you can't get in contact with either of us for some reason, you can always send a student to the application. It'll come directly to us.
So it's just under academic resources, which is also where tutoring is. It's under disability services, and then it's a nice little form.
What was the one before that? Sorry.
No, you're good. I'll walk back.
Academic resources.
Yep, so it's under current students and academic resources. I'll walk over time. So here's your current student page.
Yeah.
Again, you type this in, it comes up as well. Academic resources, and then it's our second tab. This is really exciting. I need you guys to feel a little excitement about this. No, I'm just kidding. The fact that our application is on. I know.
Just
We are
an easier way to get students to reach us, so.
Yeah. That's all on here. They can attach anything.
Yeah, they can attach their documentation too, which is really nice, so it just sends it all directly to us. They can talk about their diagnosis, what's going on with them, what they're struggling with. So yeah, refer them to that if you happen to not be able to get a hold of one of us one day, or, yeah, they can always fill that out. That's Dana's she likes that little sticker phrase thing. Any other, oh, yeah.
For the documentation, so you don't have a particular form to refer to anyone, it's whatever the doctor chooses to do the documentation?
We do have an office form that's blank, so if the student doesn't have documentation already, then they can use our form and take it to their doctor, their psychologist, or counselor. You can just send them to us and we'll give them a copy of it. We don't have it really anywhere to access other than our office right now. So yeah, if they don't have something already, they can use our form.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Yep. Okay. Anything else? All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Yep.
Alright guys, next up, give me a second, I'll get our PowerPoint ready. You can introduce yourself. Oh, and we are being recorded, so make sure you stand in this blank space in front of the screen.
Where?
Like just in front of the screen somewhere in that blank empty space. Yep. Okay.
Alright, I'm Tiffany Menard, I'm the director of the counseling department, and within our department we have 3 different programs. So obviously counseling one, and student resources is the third one. Today, I'm only going to talk to you only about counseling. Career services will be coming later. And then are you going to schedule Sarah for a different time?
Savannah's going to do a little plug for her.
Okay. So our department, you can jump to the next slide. Our department mostly focuses on students who have barriers in their lives. So if they're dealing with any relationship issues, if they are dealing with domestic violence, if someone's been sexually assaulted, even if they need like parenting skills, they're having a hard time with their teenagers or their toddlers, we are here to help them with those things. Have any of you ever noticed that if you have something going on in your personal life that isn't the best thing, that it can kind of interfere with your focus at work and at school? So that's what our job is try to eliminate those barriers so that you can focus on your academics. So for counseling, there are basically 4 different areas that we truly focus on. So crisis intervention, that is for your students who may be suicidal. If a student is seeming like they're extremely depressed, we provide more crisis intervention, and that just means that our services, we will provide those services immediately, basically. The second one is short-term support services. Sometimes students just come to us for an appointment. Sometimes they may come to us for 10. So if they need more of a short-term service, we can help them with their situations. And then consultation. Consultation is for faculty, staff, and students. So a lot of times faculty and staff will contact me if they're dealing with the student and they just really don't know how to address the situation. So they'll contact me and we'll kind of have a discussion on how can they address the situation with the student. For students, if they're dealing with situations, they can just come to us. It doesn't always have to be a counseling session, and I'll get more into that a little later. The last one is if there's something beyond our scope. So if it's a service that a student needs that's counseling related, mental health related, but we do not provide it on campus, we do have partnerships with community resources in the community, and we refer students out. The Student Emergency Fund, students can receive up to $150. And you guys, in this packet, there's a flyer for each of these that I'm going over. Students can receive $150 for housing, transportation. If they don't have a child care voucher, they can use these funds towards a child care voucher. It is a loan, so students do have to pay it back. However, it says it's a one-time loan, but if, say, I take out $150 and I pay it back, then I can go back and get another $150. Say that I have 4 different bills that I need paid. I can split that $150 up towards each bill until I reach $150. Students have to at least have a 2.0 GPA. They have to be enrolled in at least 1 credit hour. And then they have to have completed at least 1 semester here at Gateway in order to be eligible for the funds. We do not give students money in their hand. We work with our foundation department. So if when students fill out our application and they're approved, that information goes to the foundation department and they process the payments for us. For gas or transportation, we do $25 gas cards, but students can keep coming back to get the $25 until they reach $150. For transportation, if someone needs their car repaired, we work with the auto department here. They only charge for labor, so it's a lot. They do not charge for labor. They only charge for parts. So it's a lot cheaper versus going to a regular auto place to get cars fixed. So this was the other part about consultations. We have a program called Let's Talk. So Let's Talk is for students who do not really want to do counseling, but they still need advice. So they do not have to set up an appointment. They can just walk in our offices during these times. Boone campus is not on here, kind of just like disability services. That campus is by appointment only, just because we don't get that many referrals from that campus. So sometimes there's a stigma associated with the word counseling. So that's where Let's Talk came from. It came from the University of Cornell in New York. And then Cognito. So I was supposed to talk to you guys about suicide prevention. Suicide prevention training takes a little longer, so you guys are going to take our Cognito training. There's 2 flyers in your packet. There's a student version and there's a faculty and staff version. Which one would you prefer for them to take?
I was gonna ask you that.
Okay. I think the staff version would be good for you guys since you guys are in this role. It only takes about 25 minutes to complete, and once you complete it, you do get a certificate. It does look good on your resume, especially for programs like human services, criminal justice, nursing, psychology, any majors that are related to like mental health services.
And that's what these lovely things are for.
Yeah.
So Sarah, I want to tell you, if you guys do the Cognito training, which we are requiring, at least Sarah and I are requiring our employees to do so, just to get that suicide prevention, you get this nice waterproof Bluetooth speaker that can go in your shower or wherever else you want. So I wanted to bring those if you want to see them. They're for your
So when you complete it, all you have to do is give your certificate or show your certificate to your supervisor, and then they'll get you your speaker.
Sorry, a little plug.
Okay. The online mental health screening. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to go to our website so I can show you guys how to access Cognito and how to access the online mental health screening. This is basically, it's a free screening. It's not to diagnose anyone, but it's really just to give someone an idea of where they stand. So if they do rate really high as at risk, a message box will appear, and it will direct them and say, you are high level for suicide, please contact the counseling department, or you can contact the National Suicide Prevention Line, and they will give the person resources that are close to them. The assessments, some of them are only like 12 questions. The longest one I've seen, maybe it's like 22 questions. It goes by really, really fast. It is anonymous, so I cannot tell who completed the screening, so guests can complete the screenings, students, faculty, and staff. So to refer students to counseling, is everybody familiar with Starfish? Yes? No? Yes, okay. So you can refer students to the counseling department through Starfish. If it's not a immediate, imminent situation, send the referrals through Starfish. The early alert manager will then send those referrals to us, and then we will reach out to the student. So you don't have to worry about, well, should I send this referral to Basha? Should I send it to Tiffany? We'll figure it out through the early alert manager and assign it to the appropriate person. For urgent referrals, there is a form in your packet. It is called the Psychological Urgent Care Assessment. This is not, we're not training you guys to be counselors or anything like that, but if you do feel like you're really concerned about a student, you can give them that form, and if they check yes on any of those things for questions 1 and 2, you'll just send that information to me, and then we will follow up with them. And then there are steps at the bottom. If I'm not available, then Melissa Graves would be the next person, and then Tim Chester. If you can go back one more. The other one, right after that form, is the care team risk assessment.
You're all student workers, you're all learning different levels of Gateway. I don't know, so I know some bases like have been at Gateway for a while, and then some of you are brand new. Help each other out. If you've got someone who's brand new on your team and they're not aware of something, and even if that's not your role anymore, offer them insight, offer them advice, show them how they can handle something, and then of course go to your supervisors, ask them for help. I'm sure supervisors
like it when people take initiative, they're asking questions, they're upfront with something that they don't know versus you just trying to dive into something and you have no idea what you're doing. So be a team player, definitely. Also, this is a very big one. So I should also say this whole presentation was like put together with student workers in mind and with things that have like come up in like the history of student workers at Gateway. So these are like very relevant things. It, you know, may not be you, or maybe like it was you at some point, but just say no to gossip. It's not beneficial. It doesn't further productivity, and there's research that shows that it actually hinders it. So if you hear people talking about, you know, each other or even students that you work with, and again, it's a fine line because you may have class with someone and they open up about something, and then you're at work and someone's like, did you hear what so-and-so said in class? Like, completely inappropriate, because again, you all are operating as staff at Gateway, so just nip it in the bud. And if you hear other people saying, it's just like, guys, this isn't an appropriate time, this is not an appropriate thing for us to be talking about, and just move on. And if it keeps being an issue, then I'm sure it's something that you could possibly bring up to your supervisor, and that can be addressed. Yeah, no, that's fine, you can go to the next one. So another one that I think is really helpful, something that you should do, is just keeping an optimistic and positive attitude about work. Like, everyone gets bogged down with work, everyone is balancing different things, and especially in this room, you're all balancing being students, if you have families at home, other responsibilities, plus working and working with other students. So if you just come in with like, I'm gonna do my best today, I'm gonna try to help people where I can, I know I have a long to-do list of things to do, but for these set of hours, I'm here to do this work, so that's what I want to focus on. That goes a long way for your demeanor, for the students you're interacting with. It makes a big difference. And yeah, supervisors like people who are positive, not false positivity, but no, like, what's a solution? How can we try to fix this if it is a problem? In addition, or I guess along with that, if you do make a mistake, own it, be upfront about it. Everyone makes mistakes. You're new, you're learning things. Your supervisors are expecting you to make a mistake, especially with this case management program. It's a pilot, so it's trial and error right now. They've done a great job researching and looking up best practices, but as the program rolls out and students start to come in, for those of you who are in that role, you may find out like, okay, this just does not work. So we need to go back and change something because this isn't gonna last for the rest of the school year. So if you're making a mistake because of something like that, let your supervisor know, like, I messed this up, how do I fix it? Who do we need to talk to? And this goes back to gossip because it needs to be said. Just avoid drama, evade it, run away. There's just no need to be a part of it. And be the person who's like trying to keep the peace, not stirring up the drama with additional gossip. Maybe someone comes in and they want you to do your work a certain way and you think another way is more effective, or you all just have conflicting ideas. There's no need to blow up about it, to start a big argument or fight each other about it. Just understand that you have different opinions and go your separate ways. And part of that is really about conflict resolution and conflict management, because you're not always going to agree with the people you work with, the students you work with, even your supervisor, but avoid making a big scene about it. And then this goes back to owning your mistakes. Just be honest. There's no need to lie about what you're doing, even on like your resume, or saying that you have credentials that you don't have, or the education that you said you have. Even with calling in sick, you all have a sick policy. We have built-in vacation days with school holidays. Just be upfront, communicate as best you can with your coworkers and with your supervisors and with the students that you're working with. If you don't know something, just say, you know what, I'm not really sure of that, but I can go find out and get back to you. Is that okay?
And I want to add something to that. Some people have different roles, so some people are considered full-time, so they may have the vacation time. If you're considered part-time, if you're a student, then you may not have the vacation time. But you can, if you need days off, you can always go to your supervisor and say, hey, I need this day off, and I'm sure that they will work with you guys.
Communication is great. It's key. It's needed. This also goes with no gossiping and avoiding drama. As you're working with people, you're going to build rapport. Some people you get along with better, other people you don't. Be cautious about what information you're sharing in the workplace, especially related to your personal life. There's always a time and place for something. If there is someone that you do develop a strong bond with, just be aware of your scenario. Like if you're at the IC Commons, it's never appropriate to be talking about relationship problems that are happening or anything along those lines. Do that on your lunch break if you all have the same lunch break, or when you're not at work at all. And definitely make sure that people who are walking in who are guests of Gateway are not able to hear that. And you don't always know who's in. It could be Dr. Figueroa, who's the president of Gateway. It could be one of our board members. So you want to stay aware of your surroundings and the things that you're sharing with each other. I would caution just not sharing those things when you're at work. Like if you all are friends, then you can have that conversation somewhere else because you're friends. So the next one, yes. Lastly, or not lastly, I think there's like a couple more after this. Social media is rampant. It is everywhere. Most people have social media. Yes, that is your private page, but it's on the internet, so nothing is private. And at this point, I don't know if you know or you do, a lot of employers will go and check the social media accounts of people they may potentially be hiring or have hired. And if like when you were 15, you're like posting about getting high every other day with your friends, that's not gonna look great. Just like if you got very scantily clad pictures of yourself, that's also not gonna look really good. Gateway does have social media accounts. Some people like to like those pages or follow them. That means that your information is able to be seen by people at Gateway, and our marketing team is able to access that information. So you can, set your page to private, and even if you do that, again, what's on the internet is on the internet forever. So be aware of that.
Even Snapchat.
And oh God, yeah, Snapchat. They don't disappear; they go somewhere. So one thing for people who have asked in the past, well, I do have pictures that weren't so great when I was younger, but I've changed. So sometimes, like you can see a progression of someone growing up, and one, you can always take down the old pictures even though they're still there, but just push them so they're not easily accessible. But then if there's just like a progression of like you've grown up and you've matured, you're past like, the party stages and all of that stuff, then that'll also speak for itself. And if something is compromising on your social media and someone does see that, maybe practice how you address that, how you do talk about that, because those things have happened and they'll probably continue to happen. And if you haven't posted any bad pictures of yourself, please don't. It's just not necessary. Like, it's a really big headache that you should avoid. So, that's pretty much it. And of course, this does not cover everything that will come up. I just think biggest takeaways, make sure you're presenting yourself in a professional way. If you do have questions, communicate with your supervisors, and just be honest. Come in with the intention to do your best work. If you don't know something, there's plenty of people that you can ask, no matter what role you're taking on. So, other questions? Do you have one? Oh, okay. No, sorry. Okay, no, you're good. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
First, because I'm going to put this in here. So Sarah Young is not here, so my peer mentors are going to come up here and do this part, but I did want to throw in here, I forgot about tutoring, which is my whole job. So if you don't know tutoring, I wanted to put a plug in just so that you guys are all aware. So we do offer tutoring at Gateway. There are a couple of different facets. So we do 3 forms of tutoring. We do drop-in hours. Hopefully you've seen my schedule, my little paper schedule. I see people better say this. Okay. So I have a printed schedule, which is also on the website. The drop-in hours at the same time every week through the whole semester. There's a tutor there, pending illnesses. And sorry, some of my SC people have to deal with angry students because we have lives and we get sick, heaven forbid. But those are set for the same time each semester, and then we also do embedded tutoring, so the tutors are in the classes, walking around, answering questions, that kind of thing, super helpful. And the third one, we do individual appointments. I always ask students to schedule, or to come to open hours first, because what happens often is they think, oh, I can't work with other people, or I can't make it to that, or whatever, and then I have a tutor sitting there with no one, and I'm paying them for double hours, and I could have been paying them for one. So I always ask them to come to open hours first, and then if there's too many people or the schedule's not working, then we try individual hours. Tutoring sessions, whether it's open hours or scheduled session, we can also do over Blackboard Collaborate, which is like Skype or Google Hangouts. We can share screens, share a webcam, really cool for students. Like I have some students that only go to Tide and won't go anywhere else for whatever reason, but I have a tutor that says I can meet them at Boone, not working out, and I say, okay, well, next best thing is you meet remotely. So those are all options. I'm just going to tell you something else about tutoring. I'm just going to show you real quick where the website is so that you guys know and you can send students. And also if they need to meet with a tutor and their time's not working out, they can make an appointment. So what happens is if they come to me and say I need help for this subject, then I just send them to the tutor and your guys' schedules, you make it work. So it's under current students, we've been on this page all day. We are under academic resources right before the disability services. So our schedule is here, this is summer, so this will get updated when I make the fall schedule, which I've had lots of students asking and I have lots of anxious students. Please help students understand I am dealing with very difficult schedules with my tutors. I love you all, but they're very difficult schedules. And so that doesn't actually get set until the first week of classes. So we don't start tutoring until the second week of classes. So that will get updated and it's on here. I also added this really cool thing that we're going to add to the website sometime, not under tutoring, but it's a GPA calculator page. So if you're working with students and it's not going to work, it's going to take forever. And then if the student has questions, there's this little thing over here that says, I need mechanical help. You know, something that's not generally offered. They can put it in, it comes to me, and I get them hooked up with whoever it would work. Any questions about tutoring? Okay. Sorry, I stole your guys' thunder. Alright.
Hello, my name is Savannah. I'm one of the peer mentors, and this is Adrena. She's also one of the peer mentors. So we as peer mentors are under the Student Resources Department, which is also under Counseling Services. We help students apply for SNAP, housing, anything that's off campus, but we can also help you find on-campus resources such as tutoring, apply for TRIO, stuff like that. This is our contact information if you wanted to make a referral for yourself or for another student. So Tiffany kind of already went over the Student Emergency Fund, and you guys have the packets, but one thing that I wanted to add was if you wanted to pay for a bill using the Student Emergency Fund, it has to be in your name. It cannot be in spouse name, mom name, anything. It has to be in your name. Otherwise, we won't be able to help you pay for it. We also have the Food for Thought Pantry. It is located on our Covington campus.
Yeah,
but
how many of you guys have heard of Food for Thought Pantry? That's wonderful. Okay, sorry.
Awesome. No, it's okay. Yes, spread the word. But if you're not able to make it out to the Covington campus, we do travel from Covington to Boone or to this campus. And you can access this as many times as you need. And you do have to be a Gateway student. You can't be adult services or anything like that. You have to be a Gateway student. And you can't be alumni either.
You have to be enrolled in college.
Yes.
For that semester.
I have a question.
Yes.
I heard that you're only allowed to use those services like once a year.
It was previously twice per semester, but we changed it sometime either in the spring or in this semester, just because we realized that some students needed
needed it more than just twice a semester, especially after the government shut down and people weren't having access to SNAP and all of that, so we changed it.
And the cool thing about this, sorry, I'm gonna plug this in. So Sarah set up, like, you guys know ClickList with Kroger, or Kroger Pickup, or Walmart Pickup, any of those. You can actually do this with the food pantry now. So students can go online and.
Yeah, we do have a tab online under student resources where you can find the Food for Thought pantry. So it'll list some items, and if you wanted to place an order, instead of just coming into the Covington campus to pick up items, you could place that, and then you could say, I want to pick it up at this campus, at this time, this day, and we can get that done for you.
You can also call the number as well to make a request for the food pantry.
Trying to find it. All else fails. Aha. Search there.
So that's kind of the picture of what it looks like. It's a little small area, but we've got everything that you need. We've got food, hygiene items, cleaning items like soap, paper towels, stuff like that.
No perishables, right? Like milk?
No,
meat, nothing like that.
we don't. We wanted to get something like that, like a fridge or a freezer, but it's kind of like a health issue, so we can't. Like, we would have to be certified to keep those items, just in case if you got sick, then we would be liable for that. So it's just non-perishable, like canned items.
We can provide you with local pantries in your area
Information
though,
too.
also, and help you apply for SNAP if need be.
I can cover the rest if you want. So, any questions about student resources? This is like half of what our students deal with are non-academic issues, so I want to make sure you guys are aware of a lot of this stuff going on.
Any questions? All right. Thank you, guys.
Alright guys, I'm gonna go over a couple more things. Again, Sarah would have shared with you, so bear with me as you're gonna hear me keep talking. Just to make you guys aware of these things, you probably already know about them, but I want to refresh them and get them fresh in your mind. So we do have federal work study as well as ready to work, which is our next slide. Federal work study, any student that needs a job on campus, we have a department that works with them to place them. The biggest thing with both of those programs is it's a flexible schedule. So if you go to a fast food place, they're going to hand you your hours. Some of them will work with you, some of them won't, depends on how nice the manager is. But the coolest thing about federal work study is they are flexible with your schedule, and it can also be applied to your school bill. So if they have a school bill and they're working even 10 hours a week, it can go straight there, so that way you know it's getting paid. There's all the requirements. Again, you guys look at this PowerPoint, you can read through them. Ready to work. So Ready to Work is kind of a special work study program. So it is a federally funded, grant funded, you guys will hear grants a lot. So they, if you don't know them, they work with student parents. So if you hear anyone say they have a kid and they need a job, they work with specifically that population. Again, flexible work schedule, really great managers. The really cool thing about them is they do holistic coaching. So they work with a student and they work with them one-on-one, and they sit down and say, okay, how are your kids? How's the job going? How are your academics? Because you have to stay in classes and you can't, fail all your classes to remain in that. So they kind of work with you to balance all of those things, and they give you the support. I sit across from Denise, who's a Ready to Work coordinator here at Edgewood, and people are in her office all the time just venting. Just, here's what happened with my kid at 2 a.m. this morning, and I had to be here for an 8 a.m. exam. So it's kind of a unique population because you're their parents. So I think that's everything with that. Okay, so TRIO, how many of you have heard of TRIO? No, Anita would love that. Alright, so for those of you who haven't heard of TRIO, it's kind of similar with the services that Ready to Work offer that I just talked about, with even more. You can jump in if I miss anything. So the cool thing about TRIO is it's kind of a cohort model. So they get a set amount of students and they can work, like take trips with them, and they can do like group things together. So how to qualify for TRIO, let me back up a little bit. So if you have a student that is a first-generation college student. That does not mean that their parents just went to college and did some. That doesn't qualify. If neither of their parents received a bachelor's degree, even if they're associates, they are considered a first-generation college student, which is about 75% of our students at Gateway. So if that applies to them, they can get enrolled in TRIO. It's called an academic success coach, which is a lot of what Ready to Work does, and which is what our success coaching program does. But they work with you on everything. So they do financial aid, they do academics and study skills and all of that. They work with you on just kind of thing. Oh, like if you need assistance, if you need food assistance, if you need community resources, they have access to all the things that Savannah just talked about that peer mentors do, and they get you connected with them. They help you with disability services. Anything that can hinder you as a student or help you as a student, they give access to. Did I miss anything?
We also have tutoring.
Yes, tutoring. That's what I was going to say, my other part of tutoring. So yes, the cool thing about them is they have access to tutor.com. So if you're a part of TRIO, it is live, real-time tutoring online. So you guys can always use my Gateway tutors, which we love. And the advantage of them is that they've been in Gateway classes, they've been through, they know the professors, they know what is expected. Cool thing about tutor.com, they can access them anytime. And for anybody who works at the IC, they think my tutors are here 24/7 sleeping, and they're just waiting on students to come in. That's not true. But tutor.com does have live, real-time tutoring. Kind of also, in case you guys don't know, something that I forgot, I apologize, this is why I put things on the slide to jog my memory. If anybody is in any kind of online class, you do have access to tutoring for that online class. Any online class at Gateway. So whether you're a full-time online student or you just have one class, you do have access to Brain Fuse is what it's called. It is very similar to what I just talked about with tutor.com. It's live, real-time chat. They have a Dropbox feature for paper. You can drop it off and say, I need grammar help and that kind of thing. So we really try to help make students aware because we are not using the hours that we ask for. And it's an amazing resource that KCTCS pays for. So nice side note. And then career services, we kind of already talked about this, but we just wanted to throw that in there, go forward a little bit. Okay, and I'm gonna go get food.
Alright, mine will be short and sweet, I promise. With you guys being student leaders, I know that you guys know the clubs and organizations that we have here at Gateway. But what I need from you guys is to really help push that. Most of our clubs and organizations don't have a lot of involvement right now, and I want to change that this year. So what I'm asking is that you guys, if you want some of these, please feel free to take them or email me. I just made up a little card that just lists what clubs and organizations we have here, as well as where to find them and who to get in contact with. If you want to keep these where you work and just hand them out to students that you're meeting with, I would really appreciate that. A lot of times students are just like, I don't know what clubs we have or what do they do in that club, and that's when they come to me and I can tell them. If you have a student that is interested in starting a club, also send them my way, because we're also trying to redevelop some of the ones that we have and incorporate some more as well. So again, I mean, you guys all know where to find it. It's on the current student page under student life. So, I mean, really, that's my part was short and sweet. Yes, ma'am.
What's your last name?
Chambliss. It's CHAMBLESS. For now. It's changing in a few months. Yes. BLESS. And my contact information is on the student life page, so if you forget it or misspell it, which is commonly happen, it's just right on that page. Yes.
Question. So, with your job description, what are you really allowed to, what are you able to allow at the school to engage students? You know what I'm saying? Because for me, and maybe some people feel this way, but some may not, to me, the campus life is more like there's nothing here to do. So people go to class and they jet out of here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's
and that's my goal. I want to change that. I do.
You know, there's no gym. There's no theater room. You know what I'm saying? There's no pool table, no games, no. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't even have a library. We don't have a quiet place.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, can you maybe get us, you know, maybe it's just a get together where people come after the school closes and they just kind of mix and mingle.
Right,
You know
and
what I'm
I,
saying?
absolutely, and I promise you guys, I'm working on that. Being new to this role, I came in and thinking the same thing to you guys, like, well, what is there to offer them? So that's my initiative for this school year, is to start implementing things like get-togethers and have multiple times and days where students can come together and just hang out, get to know one another. I know you guys do those like big events like trunk or treat, the de-stress events before finals, but when I came into this role, I really didn't see anything like, oh, it's a random Monday, let's get together, offer a snack, and just hang out. I think that's super important, and I am working on trying to find space to have like a hangout room, so to speak, like a rec room, just to go in, take breaks, study, things like that. So I promise I'm working on it, but if you have suggestions and would like to meet with me, I would love to hear from you guys. You guys are the students. You know what you want and what you need, and you know what other students want and need. So if you could bring that to me, I would really appreciate it. I am going to send out a student engagement survey in September, basically just asking some of those kind of questions like, what do you want here on campus? What type of events do you want? And I'm hoping to get a lot of feedback from that and then start working from there.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm president of the Arts and Cultures Club.
Wonderful.
So I have to reach out to you
Yes,
with my
please.
ideas. And
Please. Yes, that would be wonderful. We actually have, so Morgan is the new Student Government Association president, and Savannah is the new student body rep. So that's a huge thing, because before we only had one person in that club running both things. So I'm super excited to have these lovely ladies a part of it. And if you're interested in yourself, you know, you're student leaders here. We want your voice heard, so if you're interested in being involved in a club or the Student Government Association, it's not a huge time commitment. We meet once a month and basically just hear from you guys, what do you need and what do you want? And I'm the faculty advisor for that club and organization. Just makes sense with student government. We're hearing from the students, what do they need from us? Told you mine was short and sweet. Yes, ma'am.
So I remember years ago, well, not years ago, I only been here a year, but when I first started, there used to be some type of portal where all the students could collab. You know what I'm saying? Like communicate with each other.
Okay.
Do we have that? We don't have that anymore, do we? Does it
Not that I'm aware of.
we used to have a blog, but on
Yeah,
Blackboard.
like a blog almost.
For individual classes, I think there's.
Yeah, I only know the one on Blackboard that is
It was
per
for
class, where
everybody.
you could talk to other students in that class, but I'm not sure one for the whole school.
Girl, I mean, campus life, that is a joke.
I'm gonna change that. I am.
My
That's my goal.
No, you can't communicate on there. People get mad. You can't even
Oh.
tell a joke on there.
Oh, are you talking about social media? That's a great idea, actually. She just asked if I was going to start a Blackboard. That wouldn't be a bad idea to start a Blackboard account just for student engagement, just to kind of see what you guys need from me.
We kind of have a Facebook page that does that.
Some people don't like fake.
For campus, it's like for.
I just worry about Facebook just since it's on social media and.
Oh, you
get a
have to be
little tricky.
accepted.
Well, Blackboard, it's hard to navigate this new Blackboard. It's weird. Yeah, I don't like this new Blackboard at all. I don't know how to use it.
We're kind of getting off a little bit, but they're giving me some feedback, so it's good about what we need here on campus. This link works There's some up here, or email me and I'd be happy to print them and cut them for you.
Alright, so we're gonna do information commons and advising. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So Joanna's gonna talk about, alright, see before you sit down, Joanne, you are being recorded, so if you could come over here in this lovely space. Just send out to all those students that couldn't make it today.
Hello, everybody.
Just sit there like that.
I'm Joanne, and I'm here just to mention the information commons. They're like peer mentors and other student groups, but the information commons, I think, are wonderful. They're the face of Gateway. They have an enormous amount of talent because they need to have an enormous amount of talent to answer every kind of question. They assist advising last year, where I just ran 1 year back. They've put in help tickets, they've logged 1,484 tickets when it comes to just advising, with another 590 for main events, which are enrollment events that they've done. The 1 week that the open enrollment was at Edgewood, they covered 212 students that week, I think, that we were pretty tired that week. And then someone volunteered, I won't call her out, but she worked the open enrollment that we had on a Saturday, and we logged 100 people that day. It was right under 100 people. They get all kinds of questions. There's a new update that they are unaware of, we just became aware of. We'll be handling some book orders out of the information commons. That will be handled through the bookstore. That's another added bonus we will have. And they can pick up at the commons, although I'm going to strongly encourage that they order to their home as long as they can get free shipping. Order to the home rather than, I think it's safer that way. But we'll work out all the kinks and we'll do what we have to do there. Does anyone have any questions about the commons? No? If anyone has a face for Gateway and would ever love to join us, it's a fun group. That's all I can say, for the most part.
I have a question.
Yes.
So now that the school is gonna have extended hours, like once school starts, I see that the schedule says they're gonna be open till 10 o'clock at night. So what time?
The IC does not say that they're going to be open. The IC will be open till 5:30.
Oh, is that it?
The first week, welcome week will be open till 6.
Okay. So 6 o'clock is that deadline?
Pardon?
6 o'clock is that deadline to speak with someone at Info Commons?
On welcome week, 5:30 is when they will open. That should service most classes. I'd love to stay open later, but it's very hard to staff that when you are staffing without a budget. What, did I say something wrong? Hello. You can edit that. I can't change those facts right now, so that is what it is. Any questions? Has anyone ever come to the Commons and gotten help?
Yeah.
All of you?
Where is this room? Where is that room?
Yeah.
How do I find
You
this
go
in
off
the
it
system?
too? Yeah, I think it's a great feature for the students at Gateway, I really do. And that's about all I have to say about the Commons, because I didn't know I was presenting on the Commons. I thought this was all advising right now, kind of.
She was doing like a combo.
Yeah, like a combo meal.
Yeah.
Total tickets, I do know this number, because I am a numbers person, kind of. I think it was 17,973 tickets in 1 year is what the IC workers logged. So they personally touched at least that many people. That's without the new and recent added payment services down at the Commons. All student accounts will be run out of the Commons. That is where all payments will be taken. Currently, they are taken in person at Edgewood and at Boone. They are not taken in person at High. We ran a test for 3 years. They will accept money there. They can accept a check there and it will be logged the next day. They just won't do the actual input there, because when you give access to certain people for cashiering, they lose access in other areas. That's a accounting theft protection type. It's just necessary. I cannot have the access that many of the workers have. I don't have their access. They do not have the access I have. So that is more of an accounting, it's good practice. Good practice. No one should have the access to do everything. That leads to problems. Yes?
Are we gonna have, like, our ticket stuff is payments and like bookstore stuff gonna be added to there?
The payment, that's what I was getting at, great question. Yes, I just put in a ticket today so that we have a bookstore button to escalate things to. I don't have an update on that. I'm certain Jeff Miller will get that for me, and as soon as he reads email, it'll probably be on there. It doesn't show that he's in today, but that doesn't mean he won't do it over the weekend. I expect that by Monday or Tuesday. So we can log those for pickup or questions, okay, so we can keep track of those tickets. The payment system, we don't have that on the ticketing system, and the reason for that is I track payments, we can track payments by queries. I can pull all these queries, so when you take out a payment, I don't want you to have to stop after a payment and put in a ticket. Now, if you don't take a payment and it's about, you get questions about accounts, like why am I being charged $73.35? Why am I being charged $40 for security? Anything about an account money, that can still be logged under student accounts because you're not taking a payment. But when you take in a payment, that'll all be tracked separately. I forget how many payments we have taken at the Commons since we opened. Because we also take payments by mail, and we take payments by phone. We're one of the few colleges, although there are other colleges that finally figured out that Joanne really didn't have a bad idea because I proved it worked all these years. We take a lot of payment by phone. So those are all tracked also. The business office lines for student payments are now located at, we have one on the Commons at Edgewood, one on the Commons at Boone, in my office, and in someone else's office at Boone. Problem is we're at the Commons a lot, so we're all trying to answer those. And not everyone can answer that line because not everyone has access.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what are the tablets in the info common for generally? Those tablets that sit on the counter, what are those for?
Oh, those tablets. Oh, those. With the arm on them?
Yes.
Those are for surveys no one takes. Because I just think it's kind of hard to say, did I do a good job? Could you complain? You want to handle that complaint. You don't want to say, well, you don't like me, put in your ticket, take the survey. I thought about that the other day, and I don't know, I have to honestly say, I do not know where those surveys go. I've never checked into that, but that is what those are for.
The reason why I ask is because I'm usually one of maybe several students who are either at Edgewood or Boone late at night, like after Info Commons is closed.
Yes.
And people come in and they want to know, how do I speak to an advisor? How do I pay my bill? Like things that only IC people can handle because I work in student records. But I'm not exactly sure. Like sometimes the security guard is the one who's giving them the information because no one is there. Seriously.
That's kind of a good suggestion. Like you could
log into that kiosk.
Maybe we could have like ask a question and contact them in the morning with an answer. That's an excellent idea. I don't know how that would be done. I'm not IT, but that's really a great idea. That's a great idea. And it is funny because when people say if we don't have the answers, that's only at the IC. You all have the answers and you all have the power. Because at the Information Commons, there's a desk reference. And I think everyone can get to the Information Commons page for the desk references. Those are all the questions. And that's like a Bible because keep in mind there are people here, I won't point them out, but they've only been at the Commons a week, and are they answering tough questions? Yes. They're answering hard questions already, and it's just a week, but they've gone out and studied the web. You go out and study Gateway's website, go to every department and read everything there is to offer. You would be amazed, and you'd be amazed at the end at how much you will know. The information is out there, finding it is not always easy.
But showing them the website today.
Yeah, but showing them, the website and stuff, so you probably know more than you think you know, but I still like your idea, if they could ask a question
Even
there.
just leave their information and someone gets back to them the next day. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
yeah, do you need us to contact you or
Yeah, I
something?
need help with this, no one was here.
Even if it was, something as simple as a card and a box
Yeah.
that they could drop in if they have a question with a phone number.
Somehow create their own escalated ticket that we would just see.
Yeah, that would be easy to do.
There is an email for the IC, for the leads to check as well, so worst case, it's on the Information Commons page, you just click on that email, and so that at least gets it written
And that's just been redone, so I haven't tested it, so hopefully it really is going to the leads. Because that just got changed.
Oh, okay.
Like in the past 24 hours,
Gotcha.
to 48. So we are a group that can't mind change. And everyone in here really, if you mind to change, good luck, because you just gotta keep rolling. Advising's on.
Speaking of keeping rolling, that's like my cue right there.
That's right.
All right, so I'm going to keep this really brief because frankly you're not going to remember everything we talk about today, and I can't possibly expect you to. So I'm going to hit home on the things that I think that matter the most when you're interacting with other students, whether it's the info comments, peer mentor, and all the other lovely positions that we are very appreciative to have within the college from all of you in this room. So for those of you that don't know me, I feel very important when my name is on the screen. Thank you, Holly Allen. I am Jennifer Jones. I have the pleasure of being the Director of Academic Advising here at Gateway. Excuse me, my office is located at TIE. And for those of you at the info comments, you know who I am, and thank you for all that you do. So I think the things that I want to hit home on, and some of this might not be hard for you guys, and I'd be happy to take questions after these few points, but the things that I do want to make sure that I remember to hit on is that as a department, as a team, there are two modes of advising here in the college, first of all. We practice the professional advising as a team. There are a team of 8 of us. So 6 full-time advisors who are dispersed throughout the campuses based on the programs that they advise for. They're embedded with the faculty. So a business, an advisor who meets with business students would be down the hall from the business faculty, if that makes sense. And so that's great because sometimes business faculty have questions for us, and sometimes the professional advisor or the students might have questions for the business people, right? So it's a very good thing. So in addition to the professional advisors, we have faculty advisors, which some of you, if you've been here a while, may have a faculty advisor. That person is designated, very much assigned to you in the sense that hopefully they are either an expert or they have experience or they teach within your field. And we do that very conscientiously here because we want the best expert assigned to all of you that can help you with the most accurate information, right? So that's how everybody gets assigned. So they're with the professional advisors for a semester or 2, then they move on to faculty. And so that's true for everybody here in the college. So then the next thing that I do want to hit home on is the difference between a new student and a current student. So this is critical because if you're referring a student to an event, you want to make sure you're sending them to the right place so that we're not disservicing someone and maybe giving them bad information unknowingly. And so the difference between a new student, excuse me, and a current student is someone who has attended class within the last year. Doesn't mean they have to be enrolled in classes this term, but so for example, anybody who took classes over the summer, even if they're not taking fall classes yet, or anybody who took classes in the spring, those are all still considered current students, even if they've sat out for a semester or 2. But once they're out a year, that means that if they decide to come back, that makes them new again. And so new again is good. Sometimes that can be frustrating for students. If there's anybody in this room who ever had to sit out, that may be a frustrating point for you, but there is a reason to the madness. And that is, if a student sits out for a year, there's a reason. There is something that caused them to stop attending. Whether it was a personal decision because they decided they weren't even sure if they want the career that they're pursuing anymore, or if maybe some life thing came up and it prevented them from being successful, so they did the smart thing and took a little break. Doesn't matter what the situation is, but when they come back, we want to make sure that we're asking the right questions, getting the right answers, and getting them off on a good foot, a very sturdy foot, as much as we can when they come back to us. And so they will see a professional advisor again. So if you ever get that question or pushback from someone coming back after a period of time, that's why we do it. It is to benefit and for the ultimate success of our students. So current students, we have registration events all over the campus all the time. We have one going on right now over in the other building. And so current students are invited to walk-in events. As a general rule, we would prefer that they meet with their advisor, whoever that might be, because they are the expert in that area. But we know that student schedules sometimes just don't allow that. And so what does that mean? That means we want to give them other options so that they can just walk in and get what they need from us when they're available. So let's see what else. Yeah, I think that those are the biggest things. There's a lot more that I could tell you. Two things, just from a perspective of having a lot of experience working here for some time. But one thing I want to remind you of is that sometimes we have to say no. Whatever your position is here within the college, sometimes you might be forced to say no. Hunter can attest to this. We have to say no a lot in advising if they're not really ready to start school. And so that is somebody who cares about other people, and I'm sure all of you do too. Sometimes it can be really hard. But just remind yourself that the policies and procedures that we have in place are all to benefit the students and ultimately support their success. So we don't make these rules up willy-nilly. They're there for a reason, and most of them are enforced because of data that proves that this is going to benefit the students that attend here, and that's what we're motivated by. So there's that. And then the other thing, and this is something that is always a little delicate, so I'm a little nervous that I'm saying this on tape, but when you have someone come to you and they have said something along the lines of, well, okay, so we're gonna interface here, okay? Okay, so Sally, I know that's not your name, all right, okay. So my name's Joe today, all right. So I'm your advisor, right? Okay, so Sally comes to me and says, well, my instructor, Fred, will not answer my questions. They're not returning my voicemails or emails or whatever the case may be. Okay, so as the advisor, Joe is gonna tell them, well, I'm really sorry, that sounds really difficult. What can I help you? What problems are you trying to solve today? And as a representative, you know, basically you are a face of Gateway in your positions, whatever that might be. So the one thing that you want to always remember to do is empathize. The second, you know, then that's recognize that this person is having a difficulty. And that's not a small thing, whatever it is. And two, that whatever the situation is and whatever you believe to be true or not true, we don't throw other people under the bus. Whether it's a faculty, advisor, your fellow student worker, the info commons, the maintenance guy, you know, it doesn't really matter. You just, as a college, we want to make sure that we support each other while we also support our students. So we acknowledge whatever their situation is, and then we try to find and wrap around whatever resources we need to connect them to whatever we do. Why am I illustrating this? Because as a person who might have had, you know, I know I had Fred. He didn't return my voicemails or emails either. And so it's easy, really easy, especially as a student, to commiserate, right? And say, been there, yeah, I had this, and then go into your own situation. But that doesn't instill confidence in that student and us as a college being able to fix whatever is going on with them. And we want them to have confidence because we want them to be successful. And again, it all comes back to that. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Yeah. So I think that in general, my experience here is that everybody really practices this really well. Like I think as a whole, we do a really good job of supporting and listening and solving those problems for the students. And I hope that is your experience as students as well. But in the instance that it's not, we want to connect with resources. The advisors always have an open door. If you need something, don't hesitate to reach out with us or to us. I will share our contact information and some other documents with Holly so that she can share them out with you guys today. I think it's easier if they're digital, so you have them back at your place of work, wherever that might be. What questions do you all have for me? Any? Did you eat lunch already, hopefully? Yes?
I didn't get one.
I have a personal question that maybe I could probably save for afterwards. Will you be here?
I am, unfortunately, but I'm happy to answer, and yeah,
I don't mind answering.
You're okay.
Just real quick, it's just
sure.
Personally for me. I'm trying to talk to a certain advisor, or who would I talk to try to figure out how much financial aid I have left and how far it would take me to get my bachelor's. Like I talked to my advisor, she said talk to the financial aid person. So I talked to someone there, and she just gave me a brief summary saying that financial aid pays for 12 semesters, up to 12 semesters. but I was trying to see, like, if I'm changing my major, if I'm going for something else, do I get a different pool of financial aid, or do I, no? Or
It's all one big pool, but that's, excuse me, but that is the extent that I will answer. And I will tell you why. Financial aid is an abyss of information, and it is very, very easy to get misinformation.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of things that I can look up. I can find the rules. I can find the information and very clearly help you understand it. Financial aid is not that thing. Because you might be an exception because XYZ applies to you. I don't like to speculate on financial aid. So what I would recommend, I know Joanne just presented, your first stop would be, yeah, I'm gonna send you right down to Joanne. No, really, your first stop would be the info comments. And then if the info comments doesn't feel like they can answer it, if you have questions that are just too high level for them to feel comfortable and confident, then they will get somebody from financial aid to come out and talk to you. Okay. And that's a great question as far as financial aid. When you're talking to your peers, be careful what you tell them, because what could apply to you may not apply to them. And sometimes people make decisions based on the peers' experiences, and sometimes it's not the ideal thing for that other student. So that financial aid is, advising. At least we can just go look it up. It's in the catalog. It's on the website. It's in the Smart Plan. It's available. But financial aid is so involved. I don't speculate. I know just enough to get us both into trouble.
I do have a suggestion though. If I were sitting in your shoes and wondering the same question, if they told you it's 12 semesters, right? That's 6 years technically, kind of. 12 semesters could be. I think I would go back and I'd figure out where I started, how long I've been here, how many other schools I went to, count them up, and then if you really want to get through some other program, look up a Smart Plan on it and say, if I go 15 credit hours, if I load myself down, can I get it done in this time? Then you might want an advisor.
Right.
But you have to kind of plan your own life too. You can't count on everyone planning your own life because of your life.
And from an academic standpoint, we would be happy to tell you how many classes you have and show you how to figure that out yourself with the Smart Plan and PeopleSoft.
Yeah, that's
it's not hard. You just have to have someone who knows where to start, because it is hard if you're not experienced at it, right? So that's why we're here, and that's why the faculty advisors are here. So we're happy to help with that part. But as far as funding for it, when you change that program, not touching with that with a 10-foot pole. I'm so
I
sorry.
just want to know who I would talk to, so I could talk to somebody and invite me. You guys could sit down with me and kind of
To find out how many classes you need. And then, once you know that for sure, then financial aid can tell you if you have enough funds to cover all of those classes. Okay. That's an easy thing that's doable. But that second piece, I definitely would want you to get from them. Rick, did you have a question?
FAFSA. If she logs into her federal FAFSA account,
it'll
let you know how many, because you're talking about the 6-year Pell.
Yeah.
It'll let you know how many semesters you've used and how many you have left.
Right.
It'll let you know what percentage you have. Yeah, but that's not us. That's not Gateway. That's
federal government.
That'll pull every college you've used it at. It'll let you know. It'll let you use semester breakdowns. It'll let you know what you have left. Well, not how much. The amount varies. It'll let you know how much time you have left. So the monetary value is different for everyone, but the 12 semesters that's universal. It's 6 years. You have 6 years.
Because you might not have enough time to complete a bachelor's with what you have left. You know what I'm saying? But you want someone to be able to sit down with you and say, look, maybe you do this. You know, maybe you do the 15 to finish program and, you know, get the little kickback and then maybe take on this program.
Thank you for that plug, Camille. I said thank you for that plug, Camille. 15 to finish, if anybody doesn't know about it and they're in a technical program, you might want to check it out. Yeah, and so but even that, Rick's right. You can go look that up, but that's one source of funding. And even if your federal financial aid is completely out the door, somebody in financial aid might know of a scholarship that's perfect for you. There's just so many things that, and I don't. Yeah. Did somebody else have a question?
No. I had one suggestion, Jennifer, when you were speaking of Fred and Joe and the advisor, etc. And it happens with every department, right? I can't get a hold of a tutor. Absolutely. I can't get a hold of an advisor. I can't get a hold of the business office. Never be afraid to say, I can help you. Use your email, ask them for their name, find their email address, and email Fred. And say, you now have Fred's correct address. And ask the student for their phone number, and just say, hi, Mr. Fred, I'm with so-and-so, and they really need your help, and their phone number is. At least it's documented, and, you know, then it's Fred's responsibility to get a hold of the student. And you've assisted them, and you gave them good information, a good contact. That's what I would suggest you do in some of the circumstances.
Anybody else have any other questions? Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for all you do. Advising, again, we're happy to help if you have questions, okay? Have a great week. Bless your day, you guys.
Thank you. We're gonna jump ahead a little bit, just for time's sake and because she's already here.
Is that me?
Yep, that's you. So we will get to boundaries, but even if it's just handout and a quick information, just so we get you guys out on time. Yeah, have whatever you want. Plenty of stuff. Okay.
Is that the?
Wow,
Yeah,
just give
I
it
just
to
added
them.
a title
Maybe
page.
some of you guys this bag. I know some of you might already have it, but it's another one that you can use. Thank you guys for your time today. We really appreciate it. And before you leave, we also have t-shirts for you guys.
For any of the information commons workers, when you're done here, why don't you take like a 15-minute break and then just come down and we'll go into the auditorium and we'll just chat a little bit, okay? Does that work? Thank you.
Bye, Julian.
So how long do I have home?
I'm sorry. 20, but or however long you need.
No. It won't, that's fine.
Okay.
So, hi everybody. Okay, I'll wait for you to get done. So, I am Tracy Nicole. I am an educator. I am a poet. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I love the color purple. Not the movie, the actual color. You know that movie, don't you? It's a wonderful movie. I am so excited to be here. So I'm the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at Gateway. I've been here a whole 4 months, so I know everything. No, I'm joking. Okay. So my goal today is not to give you all the answers, but really give you a glimpse so that you can be a resource for the students, your fellow students that you're serving on campus and maybe even in the community. So in diversity and inclusion, DEI, our goal is to educate, embrace, and encourage as we provide inclusive spaces for students, faculty, and staff. And so we do this by establishing a foundation of cultural competency, and we'll go over that in a moment, reinforcing our commitment to provide inclusive and equitable resources for students, faculty, and staff, and then demonstrating a welcoming environment that ensures the experiences, goals, and attitudes of others are appreciated and valued. So basically, what this means is, even though someone may not have the same ideologies that you have, they may not identify how you identify. If you are spiritual, you know, they may not believe in the same things you believe in, but guess what? That's okay. You know, the first thing that we need to remember is, as humans, we need to respect each other. So like Jennifer was saying, it's not your job to throw your opinions, it's your job to listen and to be a resource, because you all are student leaders, right? And so we want to make sure that everybody feels respected, even if they are different from us, okay? So next slide. And so I talk about cultural competence a lot, and so it's really easy, it's really simple. There's 3 words: awareness, knowledge, and skills. Everybody say awareness. Awareness. Awareness is being aware of who you have in front of you. You know, awareness is understanding, I'm going to keep saying this, that people are different and that's okay. Awareness is, okay, I may have said something that offended someone. Let me check myself, let me check my privilege, and let me make sure that I am treating people with respect, okay? Everybody say knowledge. Knowledge. Knowledge is going out and actively seeking a space to learn. So that could be reading a book,
It could be coming to a program in DEI, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. It could be going into the community and going to a cultural event that you've never been to before. That's knowledge. Everybody says skills. Skills. So you are aware, you've gotten the knowledge, and now you get to implement. You get to show, you know what, I've listened to what Tracy said, right? I know that I can step back out of myself and I can apply the things that I've learned. And guess what? This is kind of cyclical. I should have put it in a circle, because at any time you may need to go back to awareness, or you may need to go back to knowledge, or you may need to go back to skills. Sometimes I say things that may not be right, but what I can do is somebody checks me on that, I can step back and say, you know what, thank you so much for checking me. Next time, I won't do that. My uncle does meditation, and he gave me this tip. Sometimes it's hard to sit by yourself. Does anybody meditate? So sometimes, at least for me, because I'm high strung, right? So it's hard for me to sit and think, you know, girl, I am. So it's hard for me to think and focus sometimes when I'm by myself, because I have 3 kids and I'm always running around. My uncle says, it's cool, Tracy. All you have to do is come back to your center. So all you have to do is come back to awareness. All you have to do is come back to knowledge. All you have to do is come back to skills. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, we can go to the next one. So, our theme this year for diversity, equity, and inclusion is educate, embrace, and encourage. So educate. Are you willing to share your story with others? People have to know who you are, you know, in order to feel comfortable with you. Are you willing to learn how others think, feel, and learn? That goes back to cultural competence, right? Your knowledge. And then encourage. Are you authentic and non-judgmental as you interact with fellow colleagues, students, and community members? What does that go back to? Skills, right? It could be skills or knowledge, right? So that's cultural competence. Educating, embracing, and encouraging, okay? We can go to the next one. So some campus resources. So as you work with students, as student leaders, your peers, some of the programs, and I know that you've gone over these, but Project Aspire, Ready to Work, student involvement with Ashley, counseling, financial aid, tutoring, academic advising. You know, these are some of the things as in DEI that we're going to use in order to serve students, okay? So we can go to the next one. So I am so excited about some of the events that we're going to be doing on campus. And it's not just for student of color or underrepresented students. We want all students to come, right? So we're gonna have barbershop talks. This is gonna be so dope, because we're gonna have a barber come in, give some haircuts, and we're just gonna talk about whatever you talk about when you go to the barbershop. Yes?
Can you bring your kids?
You can. You can. You can. And so it will be free. Yeah, it'll be free. So Cultural Heritage Month, we have Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, LGBTQ Heritage Month, Women's History Month, and MLK commemoration. So for Black History, Hispanic, LGBTQ Heritage Month, in E215 in the other building, we're gonna have kind of like a gallery, right? It'll have historical figures, it'll have, you know, pictures, things to celebrate different cultures. So you should come. Tell your peers to come, because it'll be, you know, it'll be a great learning experience. For Women's History Month, we're gonna have something called the Sister Circle Conference. And what we're gonna do is bring in middle school and high school students so that they can experience Gateway. So if you all want to volunteer for any of those things, or you have a school or a contact in a school, let me know. Or a community, you know, partner, let me know, because I would love for them to participate, and I would love for you all to participate too. Glad Spirit Day, so Wendy Schindler kind of told me about that. I can't remember what day it is, but she said that day everybody wears purple, so we're gonna do that in DEI. Lavender graduation, those who identify as LGBTQ or allies, you will have a graduation ceremony. It'll be a smaller one in addition to, you know, Gateway's graduation. You come, we're gonna give you a lavender skull, and we're really gonna just celebrate, you know, who you are. The same thing, same thing for multicultural graduation. You know, if you want to come and participate in this cultural celebration, it doesn't matter if you're a student of color. If you want to participate, these activities are for everyone. What we're trying to do is educate, give knowledge, so that you can go away from Gateway knowing that you can interact with those who are different from you. You can step outside of your box, right? And kind of understand these things. So we're going to have a Multicultural Student Alliance. We are going to have participate in National Coming Out Day, pre-Kwanzaa celebration. We have the Pride Watch Party, which is always a big success. And then Super Sunday. Again, we bring students from different colleges, underrepresented students, low-income students, and have them come and check out Gateway. Do you have another question?
Yeah, do you have like a calendar of events?
I do. And so I should have brought that. But what I'll do...
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
So I work very closely with Tracy on the events. I'm creating a monthly calendar of events, so her events as well as the events that we're doing and the other events on campus. And I'm hoping to send that out monthly. So at the beginning of August, you should be getting an email with that calendar so you know what's going on here. Yeah.
And then let me say something.
Sure.
And you also reach out to me because I'm working with Tracy hand in hand as well, so I can be another resource for you guys.
Yep. Okay. So you can connect with us. So a lot of coming soons here, but you have to remember we didn't really have anybody kind of leading these efforts for diversity and inclusion. So we do have a Facebook page. It's Diversity and Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It's a Facebook group. You can join that, and that'll give you information. I'll put quotes, inspiration. I'll be highlighting student leaders and students. So if you would like to be highlighted, let me know, and I'll highlight you. We're working on Instagram, a YouTube page, because I told y'all I like to talk and speak, right? Can you tell? Yeah. And then we don't have a web page, but we are working on a landing page and web page so that we can highlight everything that we're doing to the community. Ooh, look at that girl. So that's me and my information. I didn't bring cards today because I came from another commitment, but my email address is Tracy, tracy.stokes, S-T-O-K-E-S, @kctcs.edu. Latavia's not here today. She's moving into her new place. She is our new diversity recruiter. So she's going to be recruiting students, and she'll also be helping and working with Ashley with programming. So Latavia, she is also a resource, and it'll also be on our social media outlets and the landing page. Yes.
Okay, so I know that you guys, your like thing to join was like back in like July or something like that, your deadline, but what about like new students that are coming in that would want to be a part of stuff like that?
All they have to do is come in. So I know that there are some of you, like Camille, I still have to contact you. I'm still working on. If you are interested in being an ambassador for DEI, and really an ambassador, if we have programs, you just come and welcome students. You're really kind of like, what do they call a street team? You know what that is? Like you go out and you talk about how great Tracy is. I'm just joking. You talk about the things that we're doing in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, so.
Out Gateway Student Ambassadors, so in partner with Tracy, she's going to have some specific to DEI, but I'm also going to have some just for Gateway. We're going to accept 5 starting out, so that application should be live on the website hopefully next week.
So not that you all need another role.
Yes, but if you want to work with me.
Or if you know a student that you think has some leadership potential, this would be a great role, either of the 2 offices.
Right. I mean, you can be an ambassador for the office without overwhelming yourself. You know, we want to make sure that we have leaders who are going to, you know, kind of get the word out. And you can do that without coming and being obligated every single day. Yes.
That's kind of what I was going to ask. Like, I'm already a peer mentor.
Yep.
Can I add
That's your primary.
Okay.
You know, this is a gateway initiative. All of the programs that I talked about, it's not just for diversity and inclusion. This is something, diversity and inclusion has to be done with universal design, right? It's not something off to the side. It's something that we put in the structure. It's something that we need to integrate into the foundation. So it's not different. It doesn't. We all look different. We're all different races, ethnicities, identities, but we are all gateway, and that's what brings us together. So whatever I'm doing, you're doing. I am because you are, and you are because I am. And if anybody in this room is failing, Tracy is failing too, right? And if I'm failing with diversity and inclusion, then all of us are failing. Just because it doesn't hit you in the face doesn't mean that you shouldn't care. And that's really what cultural competency is. It's caring, even when it doesn't affect you. Even if you don't see it day to day. It doesn't mean that you have to save the world. It just means that you have to care. Okay? Does anybody else have any questions for me? I am always available. I am a laid back open book. So you can always come ask me questions. You know, if you have any questions about the programs, please let me know. I'm in E215, so as you're leaving today, I'm gonna be there. You can come and hang out with me. And so everybody got a magnet. Everybody hold up your magnet. So this magnet is how you can demonstrate the skill that you've learned today, right? This is cultural competent. So today, everybody is culturally competent in this room. Everybody give yourself a round of applause. Right? Yes. Congratulations. You're welcome, right? So if you have, I don't know, a computer, you might have to tape it on there, or if you have, you know, someplace that you can stick the magnet, stick it someplace so that if someone has a question, they know that you are a safe space to ask questions and to come, okay? So thank you for your time. Thank you, Holly.
Talking about first week, during Welcome Week, we've got a bunch of different activities going on. Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday, we're going to have free pizza. Wednesday, we're going to have free ice cream as well as an involvement fair here at Edgewood. And then on Thursday, she is going to do her grand opening of her suite. So if you want to stop by in her suite on Thursday of Welcome Week, she'll have a bunch of stuff going on in there too.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. So I know we're short on time. I had an extra piece to talk about boundaries. I really feel like our presenters today had a good outlook on all of those, and their pieces really tie into that. What do you guys think about when you hear the word boundaries in the workplace?
Respecting other people and...
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Respect.
Respecting other people. So what else?
Limitation.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Limitation.
Limitation?
Limitation.
Okay. Being appropriate. Anything else?
Come on, my tutor.
Knowing what you can do.
Well, yeah, I do.
Knowing what you can do, what you can't do. If somebody comes into your office, are you gonna like it? Touching everything?
Yeah, and then
I'll wait.
setting like personal boundaries for how involved you get with the people with tutoring.
Not giving out your cell phone.
Yeah, don't give your cell phone number or your personal email.
Absolutely.
Because they will call you.
And that's probably the tough part for you guys, just because you are students and you're working with other students, but you just have to take a step back and remember that you are the student leader in that situation. Okay, so I was going to do a big spiel on it, but I have this nice little handout that I'll give you with all the other handouts that you're going to get to take home. Just read over it, reference it if you need it, but if you have questions, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and something that I've learned working with tutors and working with students, do not hesitate to go to your supervisor. I want to know about it way before it becomes an issue. Because when it becomes an issue, I need to do something about it then. And I now have time to do something about it right then. So always go to your supervisor, another student leader, get their advice. But make sure you have a comfortable enough relationship with your supervisor. And if not, find someone that you do have a comfortable relationship with. Even if it's just a weird feeling from someone, you're just not comfortable with them, and then use normal rules of engagement, common sense. You know, don't leave yourselves in a room closed with someone that you feel uncomfortable with, or that, you know, you've had any kind of weird feeling about. Always make sure there's somebody else, you know. Common sense that sometimes we forget because we're students, you know, you guys are students and you don't always think about those things. But just little tidbits I've learned working with tutors and students. Say something, just like we say with sexual or domestic abuse, see something, say something, right? Okay, so you guys are getting, I'm just gonna kind of wrap up the day. You guys are getting handouts. One thing we forgot to mention during the resources section, there is a Fresh Check Day. How many of you guys have heard of the Fresh Check Day? Come on, just the mentors. Thank you. Okay. Hopefully the mentors have heard of it. Okay, so just show up that day, but it is a mental health awareness day. It's something I'm really passionate about in the counseling field, but there is such a stigma, you guys know that, about mental health, having a mental disability, disorder, anything like that. So it is a day to kind of bring people aware, make people aware of the different mental health stigmas, change that, suicide prevention, and then as well as just have some fun, like we're doing yoga and planting plants, which is like my favorite hobby to do. What else are we doing? Like a suicide prevention pledge, and then also just meeting different resources. There's going to be a fresh produce table. So that is going to be a really huge day with a lot of really cool benefits. You can take a little plant. Who doesn't want one? A little succulents, like the new trend. And then, is there anything else that I missed?
August 14th, get to know Gateway Night. I know you guys all know Gateway, but please promote it. It's going to be here at Edgewood from 5 to 7:30.
Next Wednesday.
It's going out Monday.
Monday?
Yes.
In your email.
In your email.
Yeah, that's just a little plug. You guys all check your emails because you're student leaders, which is awesome. Help our students to do the same. And they're like, I had no idea that was going on. Oh, really? Because I got 5 emails about it. I absolutely know. Okay, do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about today's presentation? If you have comments, please seek Ashley or I out. Neither of us have been here for super long, but we'll try to answer. Again, if you are going back to work,